Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the Broccoli Fanfics. Back with amazing fanfiction. This is the series of What If Deku Had Mind Amplifier Quirk. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Hisashi and Inko looked down at the little bundle as it slept in Inko's arms. What about Izuku? Hisashi whispered. Inko looked up at him. Yeah, Izuku sounds perfect, she sighed. I guess this means I'll be staying at home for a while now, huh? Hisashi smiled and kissed Inko's forehead. You can retire if you want, my love. I know how much Izuku means to you, even more now the 9 months are done. Maybe I will, but that doesn't mean I'm going to go soft. I might decide to do some shoplifting now and again, she laughed tiredly. Hisashi just smiled. His wife and newborn son were both safe right now and he was going to make sure they were protected from those meddlesome heroes, because Hisashi and Inko were villains, or now just Hisashi. Inko had been the feared villain mental, since she could cause people to go insane with their true desires. Hisashi, however, is a more enigmatic villain, his quirk unknown except to the couple here and a select few under his command because Hisashi, he is all for one. And I will always be your all my one. Hisashi knew the line was cheesy and he hadn't used it since he and Inko had gotten married, but he felt it was a perfect time for such a line. Yours and our little Izuku's. The door slammed and Izuku kicked his shoes off before storming into his room and dumping his things. His father stood in the kitchen with a white apron washing pots and pans. Something wrong, Izuku? He turned to the green-haired boy as he furiously scowled into the fridge for a snack. Izuku took a steady breath. I was wrong. He closed the fridge after finding only a can of soft drink. Stupid but. Language, Hisashi said sternly. Izuku put the can down and sighed. Sorry, Dad. Izuku took a moment to compose himself. I was wrong about heroes, you were right about him. I'm not too proud to admit it, but it's just frustrating. I know, my son, I know. The man turned around and leant on the sink. I'm proud that you can admit you were wrong and I won't choose this moment to gloat. That will be saved for the dinner table once you tell your mother. He grinned as Izuku raised an eyebrow. But I hope now you're more understanding of our career paths? Izuku's father was of course referring to the fact they had both been criminals before Izuku was born. His dad still worked as a villain but for now wouldn't tell Izuku his alias, but his mother had retired to take care of Izuku. So have you rethought your choice of university? Sort of, Izuku admitted. I was thinking, Dad. Yes. You've always said intelligence is the deciding factor in a fight with heroes and villains. So, well, the best way to beat your enemy is to know how they think, Izuku finished, looking shyly at his dad, who had curly black hair and piercing dark green eyes. You know I tell you this every now and again, but son, Hisashi's eyes shone with love, I really am proud of you. Izuku smiled and hugged his father. But if you do follow this course of action, I will not be attending parent-teacher conferences, especially if the rumors are true and he is there. I know that, Dad. Mum said she'll bite the bullet because she knows how difficult you'd find it. At that moment the door opened and closed again and Izuku Midoriya stood in the door of the kitchen to see her husband and son smiling at her. Izuku watched his father stride over to the woman and wrap her in his burly arms, kissing her with the love that Izuku could only assume was equal to the day they got married. He mockingly opened the bin and pretended to be sick. Right here, he gagged. Once his parents separated they looked over to him. I take time your father was right this time? Yeah, and I'm not too proud to admit it. His mother matched her husband's smile. Good, you know that was one of the only things you two ever disagreed on? She giggled. The other is pineapple on pizza. I'm a villain and even I say that's too far, Hisashi exclaimed. Izuku just laughed and walked into his room. I'm going to study and train a bit. I'll finish in time for dinner. His door closed with much less force than before. Izuku sat and waited for his dad to knock on his door. Tonight he was going to go with his father to his workplace. His villain costume was a mockery of the #1 hero, an idea his father had applauded at the dinner table. It would be ironic how the #1 villain would have a subordinate with the likeliness of his enemy, even better that it was his son, who could truly understand the symbolism of the costume. 3 subtle raps on his door and Izuku opened it to see his father stood in a 3-piece suit and bow tie. Izuku felt a sense of awe, respect, and fear from the costume, and then joy as he realized that was his father's motivation behind the costume. The two silently made their way out to the night, and Izuku began climbing to the roof. His father merely walked to the nearest alleyway and levitated up. "Now son, your villain name, what do you want it to be?" "I think it should be something that not only juxtaposes him but the whole hero ideals too." "And so what is your epiphany?" "What everyone called me when I would tell them I had no quirk. I think my villain name will be Deku." His father patted his back. "A very smart choice." His attention turned towards the still air. "Kurogiri, it is time." A purple vortex opened up and Izuku walked in with his father by his side. They walked into a bar, lit up with amber lights. Booths lined the wall with windows while the bar came from the far wall and stopped a few meters away from the wall with the doorway. The place was completely unoccupied save for the bartender, a man almost entirely made of the same purple and black as the vortex. "You must be Kurogiri." Izuku walked up and sat at the bar. "He's a very observant one." "I should think so considering he's my son." Izuku just grinned as a large chocolate milkshake was handed to him. Kurogiri's yellow eyes were the only indication he was smiling. "I should have guessed, the resemblance is uncanny." Kurogiri poured Izuku's father a glass of amber fluid. "Is this why you didn't fight him that night?" "We were having a family game night on Inko's insistence, and you know for all my power I can't fight her once she's made up her mind." The men laughed before Hisashi turned to his son. "Do not tell your mother I said that." Hisashi turned to Kurogiri. "But I'm glad I did. We ended up watching cartoons and all falling asleep on the sofa, much nicer than some fight against them." Izuku slurped his drink. "So what's my first training mission?" "You don't need training. As his son I expect you've been training since you can remember." Kurogiri took the empty glass and began cleaning it. Izuku smiled. "So what's Dad's name?" "My villain name is one you know already." "Not very well honestly, but you know it?" Izuku gasped. "My dad is all for one?" His dad laughed and smiled. "Yes, you are correct. Now if you're going to make your appearance hidden you have to wait before announcing your presence to the world." Izuku smiled at his father. "Unless my suit comes with a color swap ability, meaning I can have a hero and villain appearance." Izuku had already finished the idea. "I've got a few doodles if that's good." "That is excellent, my boy." Hisashi began taking a drink. His costume fit nicely as he prepped for the robbery. His mum had agreed to bring him along on the small operation. They weren't going to steal much as a sudden jump in wealth would make them very suspicious. There was 9 different people in the main room, 4 tellers and 5 customers. Not many witnesses, and they didn't want any murders on Izuku's hands just yet. So they waited a moment and walked into the room before Izuku picked up a gun and fired at the ceiling. "Everyone down!" He yelled. People screamed and ducked. His mother quickly disarmed the guards and Izuku just aimed at one. "Don't," was all he said. 2 guards, one either side of the door. He hadn't seen them. "Watch them." "Got it." His mother ran off to get to the vaults. Izuku looked around. 10 bodies lying on the floor. 10? He tapped the side of his mask and the lenses flickered. They began showing things that were invisible by combing different frequencies of light. "Stop right there, girlie." Izuku aimed the gun at the air. "You the only place in the room where no light waves reflect. Even ultraviolet can't see you." The silhouette of a teenage girl charged him and he shot the floor ahead of her, causing her to panic and fall over. He knocked the girl out and her body started reappearing except, walking around naked. Izuku dragged her from view and found a pile of clothes and a female hostage. "Since I'm a gentleman I won't be touching an unconscious woman. So you're going to put her clothes in her." Say what you will about Izuku, he's not a pervert. Once the girl was dressed he lifted her over his shoulder and kept her face in his back so she wasn't recognized. Inko came running out with bags of bills and Izuku ran with her. "Why do you have a girl slumped over your shoulder?" "New recruit." He tried. "I'm not a perv, okay?" She almost escaped using her invisibility quirk and I figured she'd make a good addition to the group. "As long as you understand you're a villain, not scum." "Yes, Mum." "Izuku," his mother warned sternly and sighed, "I'll ask your father to organize living arrangements. You two can't stay home since she'd bring police, but you also need to keep watch to make sure she can't get police." Izuku watched the girl leave the room. Now they weren't under time constraints. She looked quite attractive. blonde hair running to her mid-back, hazel green eyes, a slim figure only about half a foot shorter than Izuku. Why were you in the bank? To steal the money of the rich there without them seeing me. Why were you there? Train as a villain. By the way, you're my prisoner. Any escape will be punished either harshly or comically. As if on cue, she bolted for the door to trip and face plant from a cling film trap Izuku had set. Upon witnessing this, he burst out laughing. Oh my god, I can't believe that worked. He helped the girl to her feet. What's your name? Mine is Izuku. Toru Hagakure, she mumbled without looking at him. Nice name. You're welcome to anything, Jin. Here, just don't try to leave. Villains might be evil, but we still have a code of conduct. Toru followed him as he walked back to the sofa. If you respect me, I'll respect you. That way we can work together effectively. I'll keep note of that, Midoriya-san. Just call me Izuku, there's no point using honorifics. If we're out on the field, call me Deku. He sat down on the sofa and smiled warmly. Take a seat. Toru sat down next to him and relaxed a little bit. Call me Toru then. I'll come up with a name when the media are able to spot me. Izuku slumped on the sofa and turned the TV on. Toru slowly seemed to debate something. You can't go home yet? I don't have a home, she uttered depressingly. Parents kicked me out when I kept robbing the convenience store down the road. That was 5 months ago. I was robbing the bank for money to buy the food. So you're wondering how to become a guest instead of a prisoner? Yeah, but a more permanent guest. I'm sure your situation will get better with time. Izuku just sat, letting her get more comfortable. Now I think firstly you better get comfortable because you're clearly going to be here for a long time, and since you're my prisoner you're going to do as I say until I don't consider you a prisoner. So what? You want me to be a maid? No, I'm a villain, not a creep. You listen and do as you're told and I won't make you do anything you're uncomfortable with. Training me to communicate? No, training you to listen and making sure you like me. So what's my first order? A little eager, are we? Explain your quirk first so I know what I'm working with. I'm able to warp wavelengths of radiation around my body to hide me from all seniors, ultraviolet to infrared. Ever tried expanding that field? Not going to ask why I'm a thief? Don't particularly care for that, Izuku shrugged. But I'm going to guess, something to do with heroes making collateral damage. You lost a loved one and now hate heroes? Yeah, lost my grandfather in a brawl that also cost my family our house. At first I stole just to grab some extra food we couldn't afford, but then I began to get addicted to the rush. Killed yet? No. Good, neither of us are going to kill for a while, Izuku nodded. No blood on our hands just yet, we need a while. He watched as Toru let out a massive breath. Worried about that? A little, honestly. I'm not sure I'd be comfortable with it. Fair, but I'm sure we'll both change over time. Izuku put his hands behind his head. For now we're just going to do robberies, hold-ups, and maybe a few joyrides, if you're up for it. Toru grinned. Oh, and while we work on your quirk abilities you'll be gathering information for me. We'll make your quirk able to expand to your clothes if you train it enough. The blonde smiled, and don't call me anything stupid. You got it, boss, she giggled. As the days turned into weeks, turned into a month, Izuku brought Toru into his plan for infiltrating UA, knowing that she'd jump at the chance for revenge against the heroes. The pair grew closer and closer. Izuku knew that his quirk hadn't been in effect since they first met, so the fact she enjoyed working with him was of her own volition, and he wouldn't admit it, but it made him happy to know that. It was midsummer when he woke up and stumbled shirtless into the kitchen ready to make himself breakfast. When, holy shit dude, you're more ripped than I thought. Morning to you, to Toru. I thought you said you were doing recon on some potential applicants we could turn into recruits? Did, but I also decided to test my quirk limits. He felt hands slide over his sides and rest on his chest. Did you get these scars from fighting that gang last week? A few I got from training with Dad. I wanted it to be dangerous and he made sure that I didn't get killed by the machines. He looked down to see just air in front of him. So you can hide your clothes now? I tried, she whispered as he felt hot breath on his left ear, but I can only project that field for a few seconds. He turned around to see a crop top and short shorts floating just on front of him. See? The crop top disappeared. Izuku counted to 6. The top didn't reappear. He looked at the floor to see it crumpled up. Now we're even. Izuku wasn't sure of the emotion that filled his head, but he knew Toru had the same one in her head. Her breath was warm against his face. Let's be honest, we've been dancing around it for a while now. I like you and you like me. Even though Izuku couldn't see her, he knew she was smiling in the same way he was. Her arms rested on his shoulders. So, want to make us official? Izuku picked up his phone and sent his dad 2 messages before grabbing Toru's thighs and picking her up, walking to his room. His messages to his dad were still open on the kitchen counter. Taking today off and may give Toru tomorrow off too so she can rest. Little did he know the messages would make his father chuckle before realizing and gong red in the face along with Inko, who read the message over his shoulder. The door closed as the sound of bodies falling on a bed could be heard. That night he rested on the edge of the building and watched some of the people he planned on corrupting if they could get into UA. His radio buzzed, "Hey, when are you coming back?" "Soon, I promise." He watched the people below him filter in the crowd. Toru sighed to him. "I want to go to bed." "Go get some rest, babe, I'll be there soon." "Join me." "Of course I will." Smiling to himself, Izuku walked away and decided to make his way back to the apartments, changing out of his costume and climbing into bed next to Toru as the computer created his villain profile for his first public appearance. Midoriya Izuku, code name, Deku. Quirk, corruption. Ability, he can alter a person's personal beliefs, ideas and views to be more aligned with what he wants. This power gives him the ability to effectively brainwash people into following his lead or commands. The sunlight was warm on his face as Izuku walked down the street holding Toru's hand. Today they were just relaxing after preparing for the exams for so long. At least Izuku hoped he could rest today, even he had to admit that they'd worked themselves to the bone. Toru's pacing told him that she was in great need of some relief. It was that moment they noticed an odd-looking girl running at them before turning sharply off into an alley, followed by several older-looking men all dressed in similar dirty clothes. Izuku stepped forward and turned down into the alley. "We're not doing this to be heroes, we're doing this because even villains think you people are scum," Izuku growled. Toru let his hand go and disappeared. Her quirk had been trained to the point she could conceal even her clothing. Izuku was going to distract the group while Toru got behind them. The men all turned and drew blades. "And who's we, you little sheet?" One growled weirdly. "We'll kill you." Izuku moved down the alley and quickly disarmed the man, putting the knife to their throat. "And what makes you think I won't?" Izuku bluffed. He wasn't going to kill just yet, but he did like watching the fear in the man's eyes. "I think I'll keep this one." The brawl began, but unfortunately for the men, Toru had already got behind them all and they were trapped between the 2 expert fighting teens. When they tried rushing all at once, the pair showed their coordination and took down the fighters by passing them to one another and dealing heavy blows. Soon the group was a pile of bloodied and bruised body while the 2 teens were almost unharmed. Izuku approached the girl and noted her pink skin and equally pink hair as well as the 2 protrusions on her head that appeared to be made of bone. "Yo!" He poked her head. "You like those guys?" "No." "Like society?" "Not really. They all think I'm a monster. They're all scared of me." "Did you want to become a hero?" Izuku engaged his quirk a little. "Yeah." "And how about now you were just saved by 2 villains while no heroes are to be found?" "No." "You absolutely sure about that?" "Yeah." "Want revenge?" "Oh, absolutely. Whatever it takes?" "Yeah, I absolutely do. They want to fear me, may as well give them a reason." Izuku deactivated his quirk. "Because all I've had to deal with is people coming after me because of how I look. My parents abandoned me because they finally snapped and called me out for the monster I am." "Did you apply to UA?" "Yeah, but I might withdraw." "Before I ask any more questions, I must know." He held a hand out to the girl. "Do you want to come with up and get revenge on the society that cast you out?" Toru smiled as the pinkette took his hand and got up. Her name was Ashido Mina, but said Toru and Izuku could call her Mina, and she was more than happy to join their crusade. Izuku called his dad, who was delighted to know they were able to increase their numbers just before the exam, and even more so when Izuku told him that Mina had applied to UA before being corrupted. 3 is better than 2, Izuku agreed with his dad's exuberance. "But it'll be even better if all 3 of us get in, and perfect if we get into the same class." He could hear his father resisting laughter. "Oh my son, you've barely started and yet you're already showing better ideas than I did at your age." "I was taught by the best." Izuku scored extra brownie points he could cash in later. Maybe for a bigger apartment. His father did laugh at that. And a silver tongue too? You truly are my son Izuku. I am so proud of you and how much you've grown your skills already. Izuku opened the door into the apartment. But remember your mother and I are going to be here if you do need help. Thank you, Dad. I may take your offer sooner than I expect with my rate of success. Izuku smiled. Talk to you later, Dad. Tell Mom I said hi. Talk to soon, Izuku. The phone call ended and Izuku looked at Mina and Toru already talking in the kitchen. Right, okay. Toru, you're alright bunking with me? Absolutely. Great, Mina, you can take her old room then. Any stuff from your old place you want? No, I'll get hold of the school to let them know my address has changed. I'll get you a villain costume sorted out that will be completely different so you can keep UA completely ignorant to what we're doing. Izuku smiled. From now on you're part of our family. Mina looked to him, and we won't abandon you, I swear on it. Her face didn't change. Do you think I'm a monster? No, I don't. Izuku heard a knock at the door. His phone buzzed with a message from his dad. Play along. Izuku put it down and walked to the door and opened it slowly. Are you guys the new ones? An older teen with faded blue hair smiled. New what? Recruits? Sensei said I'd have company a few days ago and that you guys were going to be my new neighbors. He held out one hand. I'm Shigaraki Tamura. Izuku didn't shake his hand. Nice to meet you, Shigaraki-san. Call me Izuku. This is Mina Ashido and Toru Hagakure. I take it you're the first disciple of Sensei? Yeah, he brought me in a few years ago after something really terrible. He's let me come and go as I please so long as I keep it a secret who I am and who I work for, otherwise I've been pretty much allowed to do what I want. Izuku made a mental note to talk to his father about this. So, are you guys a new team? I've been a solo operative for a while. Yeah, but you're welcome to join us whenever you want. Just because we're villains doesn't mean we're lonely. Toru smiled. So what's your quirk? Something to do with touching items? Izuku rubbed his chin. That's why he was so ready to shake my hand. If he thought we were intruders then he would have used it to kill us immediately, so it has to be something quick that doesn't leave evidence. He snapped his fingers. Disintegration? You're able to make items decompose until it's dust. Wow, Sensei wasn't kidding when he said you were intelligent? Shigaraki grinned. But I don't have much control over it so I've been trying to learn how over time. Izuku smiled and nodded. So the gloves in your hands are missing 2 fingers on each hand so I can hold things normally. The blue-haired boy shrugged. And maybe next time, Izuku, keep the noise down? Especially since there's 3 of you now. Izuku rubbed the back of his head. Yeah, sorry, weren't know there was anyone else in the building. Sensei said you'd be out for the day. I woke up late. Shigaraki yawned. I've been taking to doing my thing when I'm not given a deadline. Izuku laughed. Well, it was nice to meet you, Shigaraki-san. If you ever need anything you know where we are now. Pleasure to finally meet some new faces. I'm up and over to the left one if you guys want me at some point. He put a glove on delicately and put the covered hand out. Izuku shook the hand firmly and the blue boy wandered off again. Izuku laid back on the sofa with Toru snuggled into one arm and Mina sat next to him with her hands on her lap. Toru tugged his sleeve and nodded slightly. Izuku cleared his throat. So Mina, Toru and I were talking, would you care to join us and cuddle? Izuku lifted his arm up. Mina moved almost sheepishly to him. Neither of us will bite, promise? She rested her head next to Toru's and Izuku put his arm delicately over her shoulder. He could feel her slowly start to relax and get comfortable in his arm. It was clear she was beginning to feel safe, which is what he wanted, although again he wouldn't admit it. Now anyway. Girls, I have a feeling this is the start of something amazing. Does this mean I can bunk with you guys? She looked up to Izuku. Maybe soon, just not yet. Thank you guys, I don't know if I can repay you. You don't need to repay us, we're villains and more importantly we're family and family help each other. Izuku grinned to her, so don't worry about that. He rubbed her arm, but just remember we're all in this together. The girls both nodded as he reached for blankets for each of them. Even as a villain he could still care about the people close to him. The next few days were a blur of training. Mina had an acid quirk and Izuku guessed her appearance and features were due to a side effect of her quirk. The 3 of them now stood outside of the most prestigious hero school in Japan, Kyoka. Taking a girl's hand in each of his, Izuku led them both towards the entrance when he heard it. Deku, showing your face here? You've got ball, you quirkless a-hole. Izuku's eyebrow twitched. I didn't realize little beaches could get into you. Izuku snarled at the blonde. How are you, Bakugo? Still got that superiority complex? Or has it changed to mask your fear of being inferior? Izuku faced the blonde as small explosions danced over the latter's hands. I'll kill me? I urge you to try because last I checked, heroes don't kill people or threaten to kill them. Izuku motioned for both girls to get behind him, preparing to fight. Still think you can win after the last beatdown I gave you? Just because you got lucky one time beach? And the other 400 before that? Even with an army of cronies you didn't touch me. The greenette closed his fists. Move along, Bakugo, and I might see you in the exam, the blonde growled. A vein popped on his forehead. You watch Deku, I'll take number 1 and then kick your butt to make sure you realize I'm better than you. Izuku just sighed. Yeah, sure, whatever, dude. He let the blonde walk past without a fight. Guy tried to bully me no matter how much I beat his butt, he explained to Mina and Toru as they walked. Mina had looked confused while Toru hadn't shown any expression since she was invisible. It had been her idea to pretend she couldn't turn her invisibility off to keep her identity secure, so all there was to see were her clothes floating as if possessed. They were about to cross the threshold when there was a person tapping his shoulder. Excuse me, did that guy call you a Deku? A brunette with hair similar in shape to a coconut muttered, pushing her fingers together. Izuku shrugged. Another candidate. Nah, he's called me that for ages, but it doesn't mean much. He's always been an a-hole. He started doing it when we were kids and I found I was quirkless. That's so horrible, the brunette gasped. Yeah, well, I kicked his, but when he tried to come at me so, Izuku smiled. All's good, right? But a hero shouldn't call someone a Deku. They should call you Dekairu for. You can do it. They should be someone brave and doing what they can to help people. Is that why you're becoming a hero? No, the brunette muttered shyly. I'm becoming a pro to support my parents. But the pay is crap unless you're in the top 10. Izuku activated his quirk on the girl. That's not fair, telling you this will help unless they actually can. You're right, but I don't have many other options, do I? His quirk sowed the seed of doubt and he stopped using it on the girl. I'm Midoriya Izuku, but you can call me Dekairu if you want to. I'm Uraraka Ochako, call me Uraraka. She smiled. My quirk is gravity manipulation. I can make objects or people weightless, even myself, but I do feel sick a bit afterwards. Izuku grinned. Weakness, a means to corrupt and her quirk all at once. This girl was going to turn no problem. Well, good luck on the exam. Hopefully we'll see you the other side. Mina smiled widely and jovially. Uraraka returned the smile and sped off. The trio once again made their way to the entrance and took their seats for the written exam. Izuku knew he, Toru and Mina would ace it, but now it was the practical part of the exam. They were each sent to a different battle zone. Izuku felt confident. All 3 of them had been approved to have a few support items in the exam once they'd been approved to be non-lethal by the school. Doing some data mining, Izuku had figured out that the exam would use robots as villains, and so the 3 had studied a bit of coding while preparing, so now they would win with ease doing similar things yet just different enough to not be accused of cheating. Mina would cause the robots to self-destruct one by one. Toru would reprogram one to fight for her and then more as she went along, while Izuku would turn off every robot in his zone. The 3 all had a different type of laptop among their support items and engaged their strategy one at a time. Izuku would go from the start, Toru would go for the first fallen robot while Mina would run for 5 minutes before engaging her program. He practically led the group into the grounds until a blue-haired boy ran off ahead with engines in his calves. Relation to Ingenium most likely, meaning he's definitely a hero by blood, no chance corrupting him, Izuku thought as they reached the city. He dived into the first alleyway and quickly found the first robot. Fortunately it had its back to him, allowing Izuku the second to leap on top of it and begin remotely hacking it. Soon enough he found the exploit and typed furiously. The robot buzzed as it powered off. He began moving again, hoping his coding had worked. It did. Robots deactivated until a low rumble could be heard and he saw it, a massive robot rising through the ground. Holy shit! Yelling, Izuku ground to a stop. What the actual hell? Are they trying to kill us? He watched the rubble fall to the ground, and then a piercing scream. An opportunity. Izuku ran to see Uraraka trapped under some of the rubble and robot pieces, even better than a random person. He slid next to her and began typing furiously at his laptop. Robots from around the area began to power on and attack the monolith of metal. Izuku freed Uraraka from the trap and carried her away to safety before running back within range of the massive machine and typing again. It didn't slow down, but neither did he. The smaller robots had done damage to its legs. All he needed to do was increase their firing rate and then he could get into the beast. Phew, he chanted as he typed, "Oh, definitely, whoever made this firewall," and done. He scrambled away as the large machine began to groan before it shut down completely and the smaller robots ceased firing. A klaxon sounded to signal the end of the exam. He rejoined the group as someone healed Uraraka's broken leg. "You were mighty brave saving her and then charging back to stop the threat." "I just did whatever anyone did if they'd kept calm like an actual hero." Izuku knew his words would cut, which he wanted. These new upstarts would be ripped to shreds before they got onto the field by word or weapon, depended on how much Izuku liked them. The trio returned to the apartment and collapsed on the sofa. Izuku groaned at how sore his legs were without realizing how much running he'd done until he'd sat down on the bus back to the school's main grounds. Then Toru and Mina had supported him back to their place. He rubbed his thighs and stood up again. "I'm going to have a shower." He clapped his hands and walked to the shower room. The hot water felt heavenly against his sore muscles and the steam helped numb his mind after thinking so much for the exam. As he rinsed his hair, he felt a pair of hands against his back. "Toru? I thought you didn't like hot showers." "Well, I think I needed this." Her voice was in front of him. Izuku flicked his head over his shoulder to see a mess of pink behind him. "Mina? In the exam, before I got a robot, I almost died and that got me thinking," she began. "I know we haven't spent a lot of time together, but you've already helped me feel a lot better about myself and I can happily say you've given me a chance to get back at the people that hurt me. I'm doing this not out of obligation but because I want to be with you and Toru." Izuku looked to the air and noticed a shimmer that seemed like a nod. "If you join, you have to be with both of us, not just one," Izuku warned. "Of course, that's what I want." Mina smiled to him as Izuku stretched his arms out and sandwiched himself between the girls. Even the water didn't steam the glass up as much as they did together. Izuku woke up feeling most of his body pinned. He looked around to see blonde fluff on his left and pink fluff on his right. It took him a moment to remember the events of last night. Yeah, I need to get new handles for the doors," he mused almost silently as he remembered how Mina had melted through the door handle. To the bathroom as she opened it in her SXL haze while Toru and Izuku had kept her wanting more. Both girls now slept on his bare chest, both of them naked as well, and he remembered how the bed practically broke under the three of them giving into their urges. He felt both girls breathing as they each hugged an arm between their busts. Slowly Toru woke up first and looked up at him gently. "Morning you." Izuku smiled as she slid up his body and kissed him. His hand slowly moved underneath her and down her back to grab her soft butt, eliciting a small noise of pleasure from the girl. "I will never understand how you're so good with your tongue." She laid her head on the pillow next to him and smiled again. "You were unstoppable and incredible." Mina yawned as she moved in a similar way to Toru, kissing Izuku and letting him get a handful of her butt. Izuku used his position to pull both girls up again and level with him. "You were like a machine." Mina giggled. "If every night is like last night, I'll never get homework done." "I wouldn't get too complacent, Spice. You'll get treated to last night as rewards for, good behavior." Izuku kissed her forehead. "Same for you, Sugar. AC and things are normal, but something like last night will be rewards." They both simply grinned in agreement. "Now who wants to go and have some fun?" Izuku rubbed the bridge of his nose. "So, let me get this straight, Dad." He felt his father cringe at the words. "You found the boy when he was just a few years older than me, took him in and left him in an abandoned block of apartments but let him wander off unsupervised? Did you learn nothing from the 3 blocks incident?" Izuku's mind ran back to the fateful day when he had been home from school and Inko had to go on a training day at work, so Hisashi had been left in charge but had to go and fight a hero that was trying to claim they could rid the world of villains. In the resulting hours, Izuku, only 7 years old, got bored of cartoons and decided to go on a walk before promptly getting lost and hiding in an alleyway until Hisashi found him hours later only 3 streets away. I remember that incident, but Tamura had a better sense of direction. Why didn't you just tell us and let him become my older brother? Hindsight is 2020 Izuku. Alright, with that out of the way, I'm going to need to borrow Kurojiri and his quirk at some point today cause the girls and I are going to do a bit of joyriding and will no doubt have the police on our tail. If you can't escape, call Kurojiri and he'll bring you all to the garage under your building. Otherwise, I believe you have the capabilities to avoid the police long enough to change the license plates. Alright, thanks Dad. Give Mum my love and I'll call again soon. Always good to hear my son is doing well. Hisashi hung the phone up with that and Izuku pocketed the phone. I suppose we should invite Tamura along. Izuku put his hands behind his head as Mina and Toru walked behind him. It's only fair, we should take him out and we can have fun together. Mina leant forward to him, like a real team of villains. And more hands make light work. Toru shrugged, besides we won't be able to hang out with him much once school begins. Izuku stopped. Then I guess we're taking him with us. Izuku turned and knocked on the door. And remind me why we're going to joyride a car? Shigaraki muttered under his hood. Because it's fun and we won't be able to hang out with you once we start school, so we're going to cram as much as we can in now. Izuku turned back to Shigaraki as the greenette pulled up his own hood. Mina wore her disguise that would hide her pink skin and other recognizable features while Toru walked next to Izuku completely invisible. Her clothes were supposedly covered by her quirk too, but Izuku preferred the alternate idea he made up while they'd waited for her to grab her phone from the apartment. The only thing telling him where she was the feeling of a hand holding his. They were walking through the streets about to head into the mall when they heard someone from an alleyway. Hey, you guys looking for something? A familiar voice greeted Izuku's ears. Mina and Toru recognized it too, according to the fact they both gripped him tightly. Izuku gave a brief nod to Shigaraki and the four moved down the alleyway. Uraraka? Izuku put a warm smile on. His corruption had worked miles beyond his predictions. What are you doing down here? Dekairu? Her voice held fear and embarrassment. Oh no, this isn't good, she muttered quickly as the quartet moved down the alley. He began to recognize the brunette, badly disguised in a black hoodie about 2 sizes too big and a pair of black jogging bottoms that looked too long and too tight. You know me and can report me to the school, then I'll get expelled before. Hey, I'm not telling the starry-eyed dumbbuttes a thing. Izuku shook his head. Tell me what you're doing and we might be able to help you. Uraraka began crying. I'm selling drags to support me family. My dad's business isn't getting a lot of work because quirks make things so much easier and they're getting by, just barely. What if I told you that you didn't have to sell drags to support them, you could keep your place at school to become a hero and get back at society for screwing your family over? Izuku's quirk took a small hold of the girl's mind. Would you be willing to listen? Yeah, okay. She wiped her eyes. I mean, it sounds too good to be true, so... I'll prove it, the greenette grinned. But I need to know if you're in. Yes, I'm in. I'll do whatever it takes. Izuku took his phone out and texted his dad one more in the team going for a bank heist as well. He put his phone in his pocket and looked at Uraraka. You're going to need a disguise and nickname. Why? Because we're going to rob a bank. The sirens wailed behind them. Go, go, go! Shigaraki clung to the rooftop while Izuku sat in the driver's seat. How come I couldn't drive? Because I know the path to lose the cops quickest. Izuku yelled back up. He could see Mina in his peripheral vision, enjoying the adrenaline but also panicking at the red and blue lights flashing behind the car. He could hear Uraraka chattering and hyperventilating. Hey Ochako? Izuku glanced in the rear-view mirror and looked at her. Yeah. Shut up. Izuku sped the car up. Hanzi, can you climb back in? Maybe one of the back windows. There was a shuffling as Ochako opened the window and allowed the older teen to climb into the vehicle. Toru was sat invisibly on Izuku's lap, making herself as small as possible to prevent his driving from being restricted. Honey, can you climb onto Mina's lap please? I'm going to need a lot of movement. The pinkette smiled lazily as the weight shifted from Izuku's lap. The seat belt clipped out of the lock and moved around Mina before returning in a wider arc to the lock with the fabric now a body length away from Mina. Izuku gunned the engine and joined the highway. Are you mad? Shigaraki yelled. They'll get us for sure. Izuku just grinned. There was a car each side of him that had a similar model and the same color. Just ahead was a tunnel. No helicopters, no vision, no problem. Izuku kept a close eye on the police he'd left behind. As they tried to get onto the highway behind them, the getaway car moved into the tunnel. In that split second, Izuku pulled their car forward and swung into the left lane, slamming the brakes on. The car behind blared their horn and swerved into the middle lane, now in place of the quintet's car. Izuku slowed the car down and pulled off the highway as the police force continued after the pair of cars on the highway. He could hear all four of them breathing heavily as he made his calmly through back alleys to the garage that sat under their apartment complex. As the car's engine purred to a silence, the tires all deflated from getting used so heavily. He calmed down relatively quickly and smiled madly. "Who wants to go again?" "No!" came a collective synchronous response from the pale group. Ochako seemed motion sick, Shigaraki was sick out the window, Toru was about to pass out, and Mina's skin had gone from pink to white. Izuku sighed. "All right, everyone, please exit the vehicle at your own leisure and we'll split the money 5 ways. Izuku climbed out from the driver's seat and walked to the rear of the car, opening it to reveal several duffel bags of unmarked bills grouped together in piles. "Uraraka, is this what you want? Because if not, you have this one opportunity to leave with the cash. We will never interact outside of school again and go our own ways. You will forget everything if you walk away now." The brunette held her stomach in one hand but still seemed to smile. "I want to do it again." She held her stomach with both hands. "But next time I drive, you turn way too sharply." "So you agree to be a villain?" "That goes to UA in order to learn their weaknesses." "Without a doubt, those guys are the reason we have so much shit going on with quirk abuse and property damage. I'm done pretending they're all perfect goody two-shoes." "Then welcome to the club." Izuku held out a bag of cash to her, "and the League of Villains." Isuku picked up his phone as he watched the news to see a message from his dad. "Your mother and I would like to see you before you go off to school. Message me how many people you're bringing so we know how much to cook." Izuku messaged back Toru and Mina. "Can I invite Tamura too? I'll tell him how to act before we get there." He watched the car chase from the helicopter camera as he sped into the tunnel. Moments later, the 3 cars reappeared and Izuku watched them purse the middle car until the feed cut to a bewildered man in the car crying and apologizing for whatever he did. His phone buzzed. "Shigaraki can come, but he cannot talk about what I did for him." Izuku just grinned. "Hey girls, feel like going out to dinner?" Both of them perked up. "We're going to see my parents before we go off to school." They smiled and went into the bedroom to get ready. Izuku found himself in his own room looking at a white dress shirt, waistcoat, and black slacks. When he'd put the pieces together, he decided the finishing touch would be a green tie that matched his eyes and hair. Reaching into his pocket, he pulled out some black leather gloves and delicately put them on before walking to the door. "Girls, I'm just getting Shigaraki, then we'll be heading, all right?" Both of them yelled in agreement and Izuku walked down the halls to Shigaraki's apartment. The door opened before he could knock to reveal Shigaraki dressed in a smart casual black slacks and a basic dark blue dress shirt with the top button popped open and some blue gloves in his trademark style. "So I take it you had to pull some strings?" "Not really, I figured you would deduce it in time. I thought it was odd how you seemed so well-raised before getting into the place, not to mention 2 of you were allowed in the same apartment when there's literally a block to choose from. Add the hair and eye color. I suspected it ever since you answered the door." "You're sharper than he realizes." Izuku grinned. "But you shouldn't call him sensei, just call him sir or something until he tells you otherwise." "Sounds fair enough. My mum will introduce herself in due time." "Wonderful," Kurojiri smiled. "Lead the way then." The 6 of them all sat around the table leaning on their chairs as they relaxed in their food comas. "That was a delicious katsudon." Izuku patted him's stomach. "Always made the best, mum." Inko just smiled to him. "It's always been your favorite dish, Izuku, so it's not hard to please you with it." Mina and Toru grinned as they committed that tidbit to memory. His phone buzzed and he excused himself momentarily. It was Uraraka calling him. "Hey Uraraka, what can I do?" He heard crying on the other end of the phone. "My house, it was robbed." Izuku waited a moment. "There's more. My parents ran away. They left me a note and a plane ticket, telling me that the burglar had been armed so they were forced to run. They told me to meet them at the airport but Izuku froze, knowing exactly what would come next. They got in a car crash. They're both in intensive care. They might not wake up. His brain went haywire. He wasn't celebrating this fact. No, he was a villain, not a monster, so he could feel sorry for his friend, but he also knew this played out very well. For him. Almost too well. Hey, Uraraka, don't cry. It'll be okay. You're free to stay with the rest of us as long as you need, and we can get some cash whenever you need it. When you joined back at the car, you became part of our family too. Izuku kept his voice level. There was no point putting on a voice. She'd see right through it. And we help each other instead of the world. So we'll meet you at the apartment soon, okay? Just grab some stuff and head over. Thank you, Deku. No problem. Izuku grinned down the phone. The line went dead. And he walked back to the table. His mother was out of earshot. Dad, you didn't perhaps organize a robbery and then hit and run, did you? Possibly. And were the victims the Ochakos perchance? The names ring a bell. Last question, you didn't happen to figure out that the newest member of our league is Uraraka Ochako at all? I may have stumbled upon the information at some point. Izuku practically growled and then shot a look at Shigaraki. That's funny because I remember stumbling into some info too. I think Mum would love it. Don't meddle again and I will. Izuku gave his father a pointed look. You above anyone know how well I can handle myself, Dad. I took care of Katsuki, didn't I? Turning his attention back to Shigaraki, do it again and I'll hurt you. He mouthed subtly. The blue-haired boy just nodded slowly. The two girls just looked between the three individuals. They knew that Izuku's father was good news, but in a bad way. His calm demeanor, the skill he had with his knife, the slow high-class way he ate. Something about him just seemed dangerous. Izuku showed even more restraint than his father, keeping a flat face while his father had quickly stopped him from talking. Izuku showed no fear at the man, which meant that Izuku was either brave, stupid, or equally as dangerous, better yet, more dangerous than his father, a fact which excited both girls. I hate to dine and dash, but I've just received a phone call from a new teammate that they're run into a bit of financial trouble. Izuku addressed his mum while he stood up, and they've asked if they could crash at our place, so I have to get back before it's dark. That's fine, honey. You know you're always welcome here anytime. Same goes for all of your friends too. She smiled warmly at the trio Izuku had brought with him. I'll see you soon, Mum. He turned to his father for a moment. This is what happens when you meddle, he hissed through his teeth. The quartet left with several goodbyes and hugs. The brunette arrived 5 minutes after they did, giving Izuku and Mina enough time to move her stuff into his and Toru's room. Izuku had now dubbed it main room, since it now had 3 inhabitants. Soon he'd need to get a larger apartment. He knew his dad would be more than willing after the events at dinner, but for now the 5 of them would live comfortably in the 2-bedroom place. Uraraka stood at the door holding back tears with just a suitcase and a backpack. Get in here. Izuku took the suitcase and dragged it to the newly vacant room. You can stay in this room until you want to move somewhere else. He threw the suitcase on the bed. I'll leave you to get unpacked. Dinner's in 10 minutes. Deku, what's your real name? Izuku Midoriya. Why? Because I'm part of this family, I need to know names. So you're really ready to accept being a villain? Where were the heroes when my house was robbed by a man with a gun? Where were the heroes when my parents had to flee and got in a car crash? Endeavor has a patrol go past my house every half an hour, so why wasn't it reported? I don't know. Exactly, because they don't care. You guys do, so I'll make them care. We'll make them care. Izuku grinned. He hadn't even activated his quirk again, but here Uraraka was, promising loyalty to destroy the heroes. Welcome to the family, he hugged her. It didn't take her long to return the hug and began shaking. Hey Izuku? Yeah. Can I bunk with you 3 for a few nights? Izuku just laughed. Sure, we'll put your stuff in the room too. That night Izuku called his dad for a favor, and soon enough they'd knocked down the wall between the 2 bedrooms to make one grand bedroom. The beds were all squished together while different cabinets and dressing tables were lined around the walls. Izuku looked at his handiwork and put down the spare pieces of carpet. It was a much nicer sight now. There was a sense of humanity to it. He repeated the mantra his dad told him whenever he asked about his parents being in love. We're villains, but we're humans too. That's why his parents told him to use murder as a threat and a last resort. His dad's words echoed again. There are some killings I regret, Most around the time I was still a fledgling villain, so was too naive to realize the weight it carried. Despite my shortcomings as a father, I will prevent you from making that mistake, even if it's the only one I prevent. At that point his mother had chimed in. Remember, Izuku, even heroes have families, which is why we debilitate, discredit and dequirk. Your father gave up murder when we had you, so you won't be doing it either. Izuku had of course agreed with them. He loved his family and he knew that people would love theirs, so he would never do that unless it was the only way out. A weight on his chest pulled him from his thoughts. Unknowingly he'd gotten into his pajama bottoms and climbed into bed, Toru making herself comfortable on his right arm, Mina making herself comfortable on his left, and now a mess of brown hair rested on his chest. Sorry, Uraraka muttered, it's the only comfortable place left. If you're going to lay there, could you pull the blanket up for me? Izuku acted totally calm. Oh, and feel free to get comfortable there whenever you want. He winked to her and she blushed. I'll keep that in mind. She kissed his chest before curling up and closing her eyes. Izuku put his head down on his pillow and smiled to himself. Not only did he have 3 team members now, but he had 3 very wonderful girls to live with. Life is good, he told himself, quietly resigning to the darkness of sleep. Izuku checked his watch. He still had 10 minutes before homeroom began. All according to plan. He was walking on his own as he shouldered his bag. The girls had all gone off ahead of him, Uraraka on her own, Mina and Toru in a pair with him, the last to leave. It was in order to avoid suspicion if the 4 students all turned up together at once, but if his plan worked during homeroom, then he'd never have to worry about it again. The smile on his face never left even as he approached his classroom. UA would burn first, then the Hero Society would soon follow. The door opened and he stepped into the classroom quietly. Midori! He heard Mina's voice. Midoriya! Toru and Uraraka both snapped their heads in his direction before all 3 girls moved over to him. Ashido? Uraraka? Hagakure? Izuku feigned surprise. You guys got into UA as well? They had a brief group hug. I haven't seen you guys for weeks. I was worried you'd been rejected and didn't want to talk. I was busy, Mina sighed. Since I live so far away, I've been looking for anywhere that'll give me a room. And you didn't think to message me? Izuku smiled. My place is like a 20-minute walk from here and my folks would be more than happy to help. Mina's demeanor changed. You do that for me, Midori? Really? Ah, thank you. She hugged him and bounced up and down. Good acting, he whispered to her. Uraraka, I take it you're in the same predicament? The brunette nodded and looked at the floor. Well, my place has a few extra rooms, so I'll see how far I can twist my parents' arms. Midoriya? Toru tugged his sleeve. Sorry I didn't come round. My parents wanted me to revise so much, and I just forgot to come knocking this morning. No worried, Hagakure. It's only natural. You are a block closer to you. I'll knock on my way from now on like you did in middle school. He grinned. Deku. Izuku's face fell. How the F did you get here? I walked. Izuku snapped. There were several small explosions from the blonde as he seethed in silent response. You know that's not what I meant, B2D, and how come you've got 3 beaches? Izuku grit his teeth. Call them that again and I'll show you what I did to Iwatane back in middle school. He held up a finger, and secondly, I met Hagakure in middle school. She would talk to me without fear because she's, invisible, but she was in a different class to us. Ashido I met before the entrance exams while I was out shopping. She and Hagakure became friends faster than I did with either of them after I introduced them. Uraraka I met at the entrance exams. Saved at the entrance exams. And we've been friends ever since. Izuku smiled to her before turning to the explosive student. Unlike you and I. We need to catch up soon. Mina eased the tension. You busy today after school? No, why don't we all go to the arcade? To celebrate all getting into UA and the same class. The 3 girls all agreed. Izuku could feel the jealous stares from a boy with blonde hair and a black streak and a boy with purple orbs for hair. Those 2 were definitely perverts. Well, at least the purple one, since he was foaming at the mouth and drooling at the same time. The blonde, maybe a bit better since he was only glaring. Hell with it, why don't we all go? We all worked hard to get here, might as well get to know each other. Everyone stared at him. Oh, how silly, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Midoriya Izuku and I'm the quirkless candidate that wiped the exam. The class practically exploded. A few hours later, Izuku was tapping his foot. School was just about to finish. People had agreed to join him at the arcade after school, so everyone was excited. His homeroom teacher Aizawa Shoda, otherwise known as Underground Hero Eraserhead, had put them through a physical exam to find the limits of their physical abilities. Izuku had trained and done his best, scoring in the top 5 overall. The girls weren't far behind him, but even so they'd all been worried about the threat of being expelled Aizawa had put forward, only to find out that he'd lied to them as a logical deception. Izuku wanted to call bullshit but bit his tongue. Now Aizawa stood at the front of the class talking about expectations and rules. Izuku was bored as shit. You guys can go away now. Izuku was first gone, leading the way with a group of people behind him, all heading towards the arcade. Mina, Toru and Uraraka caught up with him easily, and the 4 led the charge of UA students, loosening ties and taking off blazers as they tore through the city. The arcade was practically empty due to school literally just finishing, and it meant the newest heroes in training could choose what they wanted to do. Mina and Toru gave Izuku a quick hug and kiss each before running off to play DDR, while Uraraka decided to go for the strength tester, obviously cheating by touching the metal bar to make it lighter and easier to hit upwards. Izuku found himself with pockets full of cash and helping other students win tickets for prizes. As he stood playing a game of pinball for himself, he saw somebody hanging around the door covering their ears. Izuku recognized the earjack user Jiro Kyoka and walked over to another student, Momo Yaoyorozu Creation Quirk user. Hey Yaoyorozu, can you make a pair of noise-dampening headphones? Izuku applied his quirk to the black-haired girl. I shouldn't use my quirk so commonly. It's just a one-off thing. In exchange I'll win you a few tickets? He grinned boyishly. Alright, but just this once, Izuku smirked. Once a crack appears it become easier to break, he thought to himself. He could break the straight-laced girl at some point, slowly wearing her down, but her quirk and natural abilities were more than worth the time it would take. For now he had an easier target in mind. Help me win this shooting gallery game and I'll do it. Izuku picked up the plastic gun and aimed at the screen, firing a tester shot. What was that for? That? Izuku made the motion to reload his virtual gun, was to tell me the sensor is 3 millimeters off to the right, won't do much for the regular levels but it'll come in handy for boss fights. Not 5 minutes later Izuku was stood at the same game showing off his quick draw skills, keeping the gun pointed down to reload and flicking it up to fire at and hit 6 targets at a time. He was now on the final boss level of the game and had amassed a small crowd watching him. Midoriya, 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 they chanted over and over as his eyes moved across the screen constantly. His character had 1 hit left and the boss was nearly down. Izuku put his hand to his hip one last time as a virtual projectile was thrown at him. It was all over. His wrist flicked and the machinery in the gun clicked 6 times, the projectile exploded and the boss died. Izuku lifted his hands in surprised victory as the crowd behind him lost it cheering. Tickets poured out of the machine and Yaoyorozu handed him the set of headphones. If you need something else I'll have to ask for a show just like that. She smiled as his name Izu sat at the top of the leaderboard with an unbeatable 99,999,999 points. Izuku just smiled and took the headphones. Pick your prize wisely, it'll cost you for more tickets. His smile became a coy grin as he walked away. Over to Jiro Kyoka. Hey! He greeted her with a flick of his head. She kept her hands over her ears firmly but nodded in. Greetings. Figured you could use something like these. He handed her the headphones. So now you can go have fun. Her face lit up as she quickly took the headphones and put them on her head. Thank you. Wow, these really work. I can't hear anything. She yelled at him. Izuku motioned with his hands for her to lower her voice. His quirk began taking effect again. Just read my lips, had Yaoyorozu make them for a couple thousand tickets. Thanks Midoriya. Her voice was still loud. Call me Izuku, care to go play a game? You ever played Guitar Hero Izuku? No, is it any good Jiro? You can call me Kyoka, you've earned it after all. She read his lips the first time and then became shocked after processing the next sentence. Is it any good? She gasped and grabbed his wrist, dragging him through the arcade to the 2-player game. It's rhythm-based so you shouldn't find it too hard. She grinned menacingly at him. I'm the best though. Izuku put change in the machine and they each picked up a plastic guitar. You should be able to figure out the game. He nodded and flicked through the songs, finding the hardest to play and selecting the hardest difficulty. Talk about go big or go home. Kyoka grinned, matching his selection. What's the wager? Loser has to get a bento for the winner. You're on. Kyoka looked ecstatic. Oh, I'm going to get that squid bento from the nice place near my house. They began playing. It was quite literally neck and neck as they came near the end of the song. Izuku could see Kyoka's disbelief and determination. His reflexes and dexterity were the only reasons he hadn't been demolished yet. He could hear the end of the song and decided to put his guitar down just before hitting the last note, costing him the match. Kyoka put her guitar down and dragged him outside, taking her headphones off. How about we swap that bento for a dinner? Izuku had a devilish look on his face. Kyoka went red and looked at him. You threw the match? What's wrong with you? I thought it would be harder than that and I really wanted to buy you dinner. Izuku shrugged. I figured letting you win at something would make you less aware of the fact I would be buying you dinner since you won and all. The purple-haired teen shoved him. That's not fair, she muttered, looking away from him. Why didn't you tie? We could have split the bill. And if I wanted to treat you instead of splitting the bill? Her face reached the color of a tomato. So I'll meet you at yours for say 7? Okay. She twiddled her fingers together. Sure. They quickly exchanged phone numbers and Izuku nodded with a smile. It's a date, he declared jovially. Kyoka went even redder if it were possible. Don't say it so loudly. Oh, is the outgoing punk rock girl shy about feelings? Izuku teased. In response, the earjack user simply poked him with her quirk's namesake and looked at her feet. Okay, I pushed too far this time, he admitted aloud. Trying to corrupt you, he added mentally. So I'll be at yours for 7, right? Why, yeah, sure. Kyoka smiled awkwardly and put a hand to her headphones. Care to go play some more? I thought you'd never ask. He grinned as Kyoka put the ear defenders on and walked next to her, their index fingers wrapped together. Izuku stood at the door, dressed in a semi-casual look, a black and red checkered plaid shirt with a black tie loosely around his neck under the collar, dark jeans with a silver-clasped black belt around his waist, and some white-toed black sneakers. He also wore a leather jacket he'd procured on short notice for the evening. He couldn't hear anything behind the door until it was opened in a swift yet gentle manner by one Jiro Kyoka. She was dressed in faded blue jeans and a black shirt with AC/DC printed on the front. The collar was designed to be slightly too large and showed off Kyoka's shoulder and part of her bra strap. Izuku smiled. You look incredible, he mused for a moment. Shall we? Holding out one arm bent at the elbow, he gave a warm look at the hesitant girl. I feel like I should go change. Nonsense, you look wonderful, Izuku reassured her and activated his quirk. Really? Of course. Kyoka's face lit up and she grabbed Izuku's arm. Then lead the way. The two walked away from Kyoka's house and into the city center. Hey Green. Yeah. Thanks. For earlier, my ears are super sensitive to loud noises and I was debating whether or not to go home. Her hands moved so she could lock arms with him, but I'm glad I didn't. They continued walking for a moment. Kyoka began shivering slightly. Izuku took his jacket off and gently draped it over her shoulders. She turned and looked up at him before smiling and pulling the jacket over her. Izuku rolled up his sleeves and sighed. Are you sure you won't get cold? I prefer the cold, to be honest. He grinned. Lets me know I'm still alive. I know, dramatic, but... I get it. Kyoka nodded. It's to feel something that isn't something in your head. Yeah. Izuku smiled as a warm light came from behind Kyoka. Oh, we're here. They were stood outside of a little bistro cafe. I know it's not a classy restaurant or some popular club, but I figured a quiet, slow evening would be more enjoyable for you. Kyoka surprised him with a warm hug. Thank you, she whispered to him. That's so considerate. Izuku just returned her hug. Shall we? They walked into the warmth together. The nightlife had all but begun when the two left the cafe. Izuku stretched his arms out and yawned. That was nice. Yeah, Kyoka muttered, thanks for this. They began to walk down the street. Izuku put one arm around Kyoka slowly. She didn't protest. There was a movement from beside them. They both tensed as there was a flash of silver in the moonlight. Come here, a hoarse voice instructed. Izuku shifted to put himself between Kyoka and the person, Come on, hurry up. Izuku walked down into the alley. What are you doing? Kyoka's voice hissed. He's going to kill you. It's fine, there will be a hero around here. Izuku just smiled to her. Heroes are always there when you need them. In truth, he knew exactly how this could play out, and none involved heroes. 2 involved getting hurt and 1 meant he'd be dead in the morning. He felt Kyoka follow him. What are you doing? You'll need help buying time until a hero arrives, she whispered. You are going to get yourself killed, he muttered back. Run and get help? No, she told him. Are you 2 lovebirds done? Izuku looked at the mugger. Now hurry it along, wallet, keys, purse, jewelry, all of it. Now, Izuku raised his hand and began taking off his watch, letting it hit the floor. Pick it up. A fire burned Izuku's stomach. This prick had no idea who they were screwing with. As he stopped down, he tackled the figure and began attacking them. But the mugger turned and ran away. Izuku clutched his side as it grew warmer. He became acutely aware of Kyoka screaming. Stumbling to the wall, Izuku rested against it. He groaned in pain as Kyoka crouched next to him. Oh God, OF-Y? He would have shot us anyway, this way you didn't get hurt and he got scared. But a hero wouldn't know about this unless they heard the gunshot. Looking, he smiled. Pass me my watch please, Kyoka. She passed him the timepiece and he casually put it on his wrist. Why wasn't a hero here? She began crying. They're supposed to be here when you need them. Because he wasn't a villain. You ever seen a report of a hero catching a regular old street thug? Izuku smiled. I'm fine, I just need to get to a hospital. I'll call an ambulance. Izuku shook his head and stood up. No, I can. He passed out. His eyes snapped open and he groaned slightly. There was a pain in his side. Izuku. Looking to his left, the boy saw his father sat in a chair looking at him calmly. You've been in hospital for half a day. I miss school? Unfortunately so, but your young friend explained it all to me. Your mother called the school and they understand. They actually praised your actions to save a schoolmate. Hisashi leant in closer. But you weren't doing it to be a hero, Izuku laughed. Maybe in part, but I knew that the end scenario would be worth it. He tried sitting up slightly. I knew that if I got hurt, especially badly, her faith would be shaken. She'd be even easier to corrupt. I take it you insisted she go to school while you sat here with me. His father nodded. Yes, you were stable from the moment I got here, which was very comforting. Izuku saw something he'd never seen before on his father's face, concern. I fought heroes that claimed to be gods, villains that threatened my empire, and legions of the best heroes time and time again, but nothing brought me to my knees. Then I saw you lying in that bed and it took every ounce of control I had to not cry. Izuku smiled warmly. You're my son, my boy, and you almost died. Nah. Izuku shrugged. I wasn't going to die. The bullet didn't hit anything too vital. Besides, I'm guessing the doctor here was a healing quirk user. Not even a hero. Hisashi nodded. I'm glad you're safe now, my boy. Your mother has been, shall we say, concerned about the incident and more than willing to find the man that did it. Don't bother. Izuku waved a hand. You'll see him on the news soon enough. I corrupted him to regret his life choices. You've taken a life? No, I've got him to the point he'll hand himself in, crying like a little child. Izuku shrugged. How long until school is over? Actually, the faculty called your mother. School's over and some staff are on their way with students that want to make sure you're okay. They'll be here any moment. I'll leave just before then. All right, Dad. Sorry I made you and Mum worry. Izuku smiled. But hey, at least I'm here still. Hisashi stood up and stroked his son's hair. And the heroes weren't? Anger flashed over his face. But I suppose that works in our favor now. He began leaving the hospital room. And Izuku, I would greatly appreciate if you could stay out of trouble for a few days. Your father has an old heart. They both chuckled. Sure, Dad, I'll do my best. Love you. I love you too, Izuku. Hisashi walked out of the room and sighed, barely holding back the fear, sadness and rage. Izuku now sat up more correctly and looked at the window. Footsteps outside made him turn towards the door. A flurry of people burst in and Izuku suddenly felt very outnumbered. Izuku! Kyoka was first to his side. Thank God you're okay. Your dad came in and told me I needed to get to school. I'm sorry I didn't stay. I thought you would die while I was at school. Kyoka, hey, Kyoka. Izuku began. Calm down. Kyoka took a deep breath. Doc said nothing vital was hit and I didn't lose a lot of blood so, he smiled, I'm alive. Mina and Toru's floating clothes stood on the other side of his bed and looked down at him. I was wondering what you meant when you said you had plans. Min smiled, didn't realize you were going to get shot. Toru's shirt appeared to nudge Mina. He could have died, weren't there any heroes nearby? No, according to the heroes in the area they were too far away to do pick up on anything while the gunshot got their attention they weren't able to get there before they found Kyoka with Midoriya passed out in her arms. Aizawa spoke from the door, as for you problem child, I've got some class work you need to do. Izuku nodded, I also came to chaperone this lot. He flicked his head towards the group, it was most of his classmates. Kirishima Ejiro, Kaminari Denki, Shoji Mizo, Todoroki Shoto, Tenya Ida and Sato Rikido of the boys and all of the girls, including one he didn't know very well Azuitiu. They were all concerned about you, you've left quite an impression after yesterday's display of ability and the idea for the arcade after school. His entire target list stood in the room, with the exception of Tokoyami Fumikage but that could be handled later. I didn't realize there'd be so many people concerned about me. He smiled, you guys can all call me Izuku. Midoriya, Ida bowed. Sorry, Izuku, you have shown true qualities of a hero, I must apologize, at first I thought you were a show-off but now I see you are one of the most heroic in the class, please call me Ida. It's okay Ida, I can see where you were coming from but don't worry about it anymore. Izuku waved a hand, we're cool. Izuku, Ejiro grinned and held up a clenched fist, you were so manly, taking a bullet even though you had the disadvantage you fought hard. His eyes closed and a single tear moved down his face. There's nothing manly about getting shot, Izuku grinned. If you were there you would have been more manly, taking the shot to the face after hardening with your quirk. Ejiro grinned playfully at the thought. I did what I did because I had to. There weren't any heroes at all nearby? I could have done something, Kyoka muttered. No, because you would have got in trouble for unlicensed use of your quirk, like it or not this was the best outcome. Aizawa had moved into the room, sitting in the same chair Izuku's dad had. Rage boiled in the bed-bound boy, how dare a hero sit where he father sat, acting like nothing could have been done, when a lot of other things could have stopped the incident. Midoriya Izuku, you acted in self-defense without use of a quirk and defending a classmate. I imagine police will want to speak to you if not the heroes. No, Izuku's voice was level only for the one word. What? No, I'm not talking to anyone. Police weren't there because the heroes were supposed to be, which they weren't. Because their patrols didn't go by the area. And why is that? Izuku turned to his teacher, is it pure coincidence? Or is it because most heroes walk on the streets and make their routes public and thereby predictable? Just to get some attention, the class all looked between the injured by and their teacher. This might be blood loss or tiredness talking but heroes aren't here for helping us, they're here for attention. Yet underground heroes exist. And you've had to take up teaching to support yourself, and tell me even present Mike is teaching but he's a radio host at the same time, how poorly does it pay to be a hero that isn't in the top 10? Izuku's quirk had been in effect the moment people walked into the room. Even his teacher had been affected but targeting so many at once meant the power was less than if he focused on a single person. It would still work however. Kyoka leant into him. My parents are going out tonight, care to finish our date? Her face was red but she still smirked at him. He grinned slyly and grabbed her hand. I guess I owe you a less scary evening, huh? Same time tonight? Absolutely, Kyoka smiled, the redness had faded with her laid-back smile. The bed groaned underneath them but Kyoka was louder as her fingers dragged down Izuku's back, her legs wrapped around his waist. His hands held her waist and pulled her to him with each move. He put his shins down on the bed and lifted his hands to her shoulders. In one movement he leant back and lifted her up making her even more. Her fingernails dug into her back harder than before as their bodies pressed together. Izuku never stopped moving his hips as he took them off the bed and pressed Kyoka's back against the wall. Her words were non-existent as she could only his name. Her head moved back against the wall and he took the moment to kiss her, his tongue moving into her mouth and tangling with hers. She into his mouth now, their breath mixing together. Her legs wrapped tighter around his waist and her hands were under his arms reaching to his shoulders and her hands trying to clench with his flesh. His hands were back on her hips, lifting her up and down against each move of his hip. She broke the kiss by throwing her head back against the wall and screaming. Izuku felt the pressure build up in his member and groaned. "Izu, let it go, let it all go." Shimmed. Her body began shivering as he felt himself finishing. Her limbs went limp as her head rested on his shoulder, her breath heavy. "Jesus," she gasped. Izuku fell out of her but still kept his hands on her butt, holding her up against the wall. He carried her back to the bed and laid down next to her. "That was incredible." Kyoka looked over to him, seriously, just, "Wow, Izu, I didn't know you could be so powerful." "Not bad for a guy with a bullet wound." He grinned, but in all seriousness that was mind-blowing. "Kyoka?" "No, Izu, you were mind-blowing." She pulled up the covers. "I guess it's just a good thing you wore your uniform over this time." "Well, I figured I'd stay the night regardless." "Someone wanted to get lucky, huh?" "Oh, I got then lucky, I got blessed." Izuku rolled over to face her. "You deserve some fun time after what happened anyway." Her voice was bitter, not that this was pity. "I didn't think it was, I could tell you wanted it." He grinned. "But heroes should have been there, they should have stopped you from getting shot, getting hurt, but they weren't, they were busy showing off and being all flashy and loud and things. I heard a hero finish a fight literally down the street from where we got mugged as the gun is pulled on us, but the hero looked the other way." Izuku pulled Kyoka into his chest. "I hate them," she whispered. "I hate them all." "I'm still here, but what do you mean hate them?" "Promise you won't think badly of me." "Promise." "I want to be a villain and make them pay for focusing too much on their images instead of doing what's right." Izuku held her tightly. "You want to be a villain?" "Please don't tell anyone, I'm not sure if I can do it." "I won't tell anyone, in fact I'll help you." Izuku held her closely. "I want to do the same, especially when you were put at risk. Heroes have always focus on image more than anything, some focus on power but most it's image." "Really?" "Of course. In fact I've got my little team going already and I think they'd love to have you join in." He felt Kyoka smile into his chest. "By the way, you're ripped, Izu." "Thank you, Kyoka." The two began to fall asleep together. He woke up to someone kissing him. Izuku went to move his arms around the body but found them restrained up by the headboard by wire-like objects. He felt the person lift their weight from his lips and move down to his chin. "Ah." His voice was soft. He didn't know what the time was but he knew to be quiet. Cracking open one eye, he could see Kyoka's hair falling down the side of her face as she bit and itched on his skin. Her ear jacks were extended out and wrapped around Izuku's wrists and keeping them stuck to the bedposts. "You had your turn, now I take control," Kyoka whispered as she clamped her mouth down on his chest, eliciting another from the greenette. He didn't know what to do with his body, knees bending and arms struggling against the bindings. "Oh God," was all he could manage. He could feel the blood rushing to his member as her hands ran all over him. She apparently noticed it too. "Warmed up, are you?" she teased. "Well, if you're going to stick it up, I might as well use it." Her body was warm as she lowered herself onto him, both miming in pleasure. Kyoka began moving her hips up and down while continuing to give Izuku hickeys. He bit his lip to stop the loud miming he surely would have made. It wasn't long before her ear jacks released him as she gave in to the pleasure. Izuku wasted no time turning her around and threading his arms under her legs, putting her into a full Nelson position. Her head lolled back as he heard her ragged breathing. "I'm always in control," he whispered to her, "always." His hips began moving more powerfully as Kyoka tried her best to keep quiet. He could feel the pressure again as Kyoka's voice got higher as her body edged closer. Their voices mixed as they both finished together with a powerful each. Izuku lowered his arms and she rolled over, settling on his chest. "If you're going to do that, take control whenever you want," she whispered as his arm came up and wrapped around her. "I'll hold you to that." He pulled the covers back up and they both fell into a deep sleep again. The class all cheered as Aizawa tiredly announced they were going to be training at the UFE. Izuku smiled and sighed. Since he was working as an insider, that meant he could either leak the information and get them attacked or keep suspicion at an all-time low and just suffer through the field trip. His smile widened at the thought of being let loose in such a high-tech area. He joined everyone else mindlessly wandering to the changing rooms to get their costumes on and head for the coach that would take them from the school grounds to the USJ Center. As the boys all took off ahead of him, Izuku sat back pretending to adjust his costume before pulling out his phone and dialing his dad. Yes. Isashi's voice came through the other end. We're going to the USJ. If there is any plan to attack it, please either don't or make sure it looks like it is disorganized. If Kurogiri is going to be there, I'll text who to put into groups. But please do not bring more than one Nomu. I can arrange all of those things easily, so don't worry, Hisashi reassured him. I'll see you for dinner this weekend? Of course. Can I bring everyone? There was indistinct chatter for a brief moment. Your mother says the more the merrier, and I won't argue as long as they are polite. Yeah, they will be, don't worry. Do bring the 3 girls again. Your mother did love talking to them. You got it, Dad, by love you. Goodbye, Izuku, I love you too. Izuku tucked his phone away in his pocket and left for the door. He was greeted by the rest of the class standing around by the coach. Sorry, Sensei, I couldn't find my wire refills or med kits. You should keep track of your things, Midoriya. I know, Sensei. Sorry, I put them in the wrong pockets by mistake. Everyone loaded onto the coach and it pulled away slowly. Izuku adjusted his mask as the group all unloaded from the coach and stretched their legs. Kyoka, Mina, Uraraka and Toru joined him and began chatting merrily. Oh, your folks want to meet me? Kyoka smiled. I'd be happy too. Are they very religious or conservative? No, they understand people live different lives. Izuku smiled and put a hand around her waist. Besides, if you wanted to move closer to school, they'd want to know you before I offered you a place. Seriously? Kyoka's face went red. You'd do that for me? Sure, as long as you don't mind sharing with Mina, Uraraka and Toru. Nah, as long as I get a piece I'm happy. She pecked his cheek. Another roomie? All right, Mina cheered, ever the social creature. But you'll see what we're really like after we get home. You can move in at your leisure, but you don't have to if you don't want to. My folks have been talking to me about moving out, so, Kyoka shrugged. Shortly after you sneaked out of my window, my parents came in to talk about finding my own place. They knew you came last night and support me, but they think I should find my own place before things get too. She blushed. Rowdy? Great. Izuku smiled. So it's the 5 of us. Kyoka will move in as soon as possible. The group moved into the USJ. He was falling. Izuku made a mental note to ask Kurogiri if next time he could leave them closer to the floor. Izuku took note of his surroundings and saw a green object falling. Azui! He yelled, grab my neta. His own cord buzzed and attached to a tree, swinging him down gently to the floor. A small purple figure was thrown into a tree next to him as Izuku felt something land into his outstretched arms. Oh hi! His grin widened as Azuitsu wrapped her hands behind his neck and hugged him. His quirk began working on the girl. He decided to try and grope me, so I threw him, she admitted directly. Izuku let her down gently and looked to her. Are you okay? He didn't get far? Only went for my melons, but I threw him before he could get a proper handful. Izuku turned to the purple boy who was currently getting up from the floor after sliding down the tree he'd crashed into. With one strong movement, Izuku picked Mineta up and threw him back into the tree. I'll get you down when you stop being such a perverted D-dash. Even villains have better standards than you. Excuse us? Izuku turned to see several random villains beginning to circle him and Azui, but what? Pervert, groped her. The villain raised an arm and looked horrified, wants to be a hero to get women. That's effed up. The villain looked at the purple boy lodged in the tree. You're a disgrace. Says a villain. Yes, I'm a villain, but I have effed lines I do not cross. F you. I don't swing that way, Izuku chuckled. Now down to business. I don't suppose you'd be interested in surrendering? No, but I do have a compromise. He pulled out his tape. I'm sure that if you guys come quietly you'll be given smaller sentences. The villains all looked towards each other for a moment. Look, I'm guessing your employer already paid you. Just spin some shit about them saying this was supposed to be a play or something and then someone warped you out here. Izuku tilted his head. You'll get off even easier. Why not? I don't want to get my face smashed today. I've got the cash. Each villain stepped forward calmly and allowed Izuku or Azui to arrest them. The first villain smiled to Azui. Not that I condone such acts, but that purple perv may have got one thing right. And that would be? Izuku looked towards him. The girl in green is cute. My thoughts as well. Izuku grinned as the frog girl went bright red. The villains all sat in a circle. Mineta was still stuck in the tree. Hey, get me down from here. Not happening, Izuku barked back, not until you learn to behave like an actual person. He grabbed Azui's wrist. Come on, we need to go and see if we can help others. Yeah, hopefully they're as peaceful as those guys. I doubt it, Izuku shrugged. Azui didn't realize he'd used his quirk to make the villains so civil and docile. I'm just glad I said the right words. They continued running. Izuku. Yeah, Azui? Call me Tsu, all my friends do, are we lost? He grit his teeth. He'd mislead her as much as possible to maximize how much he could use his quirk non-verbally on Tsu. I don't know Tsu, I think so. He reached into a pocket of his costume and pulled out a butterfly knife. I'll just leave a nick in the trees on our right so we know which way we came from. He turned around to the frog girl. You okay, Phew? You look out of it? I'm not built for forest areas, especially low moisture ones like this. She seemed to pant. Izuku walked over to her. Want to hitch a ride? He began using more of his quirk on her. You're for real? Yeah, hop on, pun not intended, and call me Izuku. He felt the weight on his back increase as Tsuyu climbed onto him. Thanks, Izuku, she whispered into his ear. Does this mean I'll get a piece too? He could feel her hot breath on her ear. I saw Jiro's bow-legged walk to the changing room and onto the coach. Then Uraraka, Mina and Toru all smiled and nodded before Toru told her it would go by the time the trip ended. Izuku's eyes went wide as Tsu nibbled the helix of his ear. Then when the time comes I'll make yours last 2 days? He grinned smugly. Now I am excited, she whispered, her tongue playing with his ear. Izuku just smiled again. 2 more in the team, but now he met a roadblock. Momo would take a while to break down, so he would need to work on her while expanding the rest of his team. The question was who, the only 2 guys that would either he could get close enough either to hated him, Bakugo, or seem to straight-lace that it'd take something massive to change him, Ida. The others were too dense, Kirishima, Denki and Zero, too quiet, Koda, Sato and Shoji, too emo, Todoroki and Tokoyami, or just too flashy and useless to him, Aoyama. He slowed down as he saw the edge of the forest approaching. So when do I prove that I want to be a villain and remove the heroes that use their position for SEC and drags? Oh, since when did you know that 80% of heroes have a drag use problem? I didn't, how did you? Lots of research leads to lots of info. Izuku shook his head. Endeavor is an alcoholic, Present Mike does cane, Midnight I'm pretty sure is a weed addict. He was about to shrug before he remembered he had Tsuyu on his back, and they use their titles as free pass cards, so their dealer or in some like Endeavor's case bars, get bragging rights. And we need to change that. But before we can change the world we'll need to burn it down, he finished Tsuyu's sentence. Go to the others in the school and take these with you. Izuku took water bottles out of his pockets and handed them all to her. You need them more than I do. Even the way you are normally seems heroic. Just helping someone in a way heroes don't care to, Izuku shrugged. Now go to the others, I need to go and save Aizawa-sensei. They split paths. Behold Eraserhead, the tool of your demise. Izuku heard Tamura talking and grinned. A beast that's designed to take down even All Might himself. Izuku leapt forward and began using his quirk on the Nomu to make it calm down. What's up? Izuku yelled, landing and throwing a punch towards Tamura, who blocked it with ease. The 2 began brawling it out. Izuku grew close and spoke to Tamura as they sparred. So what's with the attack? Just to make the school less suspicious anyone could act out. Tamura returned with an equal volume. So how's classes? Yeah, fine, I've got another in the group. Cool, cool. By the way, Dad came clean to Mum about me. She was very sympathetic and they filled out the application to make me part of the family. If I was younger they would have adopted me, but as it stands they let him be part of the family. So you're Midoriya Tamura? Nice, I always wanted an older brother. Izuku grinned. So how's Dad? Concerned about you getting caught, but Mum is much worse. She stresses constantly. Izuku ducked under a powerful left hook and returned with a right jab. Please tell her to bring some herbal tea now and again. It helps reduce her stress. I'll pass it on. Izuku planted a kick firmly into Tamura's chest. For now I have to at least look like I've defeated you so you don't look suspicious. Izuku nodded. Sorry. Tamura quickly laid the pain into Izuku by showing his superior speed and strength, leaving Izuku winded and stumbling backwards. Now die. Tamura dashed forwards, but the signature capture tape of Izuku's homeroom teacher wrapped his wrist and pulled hard, causing Tamura to hit the floor. Tamura screamed in anger, Shigaraki, time to go. The Nomu was effing useless. Purple mist swallowed Tamura and the hulking blue beast that had been stood still after the first attack it had delivered. Izuku clutched his ribs. Sensei, you okay? He asked, in too much pain to turn. I'm alright. How are you feeling, Midoriya? Tired, hungry, sore. I tried to keep him from making contact because I didn't know his quirk, so keeping close and fast took away his chances of using it. Clever move. He has some sort of disintegration quirk. He put his hand to my elbow and everything up to the muscle had been stripped off. Sounds painful, but I think if I move now I'll pass out. That makes two of us. Aizawa's voice was followed by a small thud. I just want. He took a deep breath. Sleep. His voice rang across the USJ. Heroes began piling in the entrance, one helping Aizawa while the other helped Izuku, who smiled and fell asleep the second his body relaxed. He grumbled as he walked to the apartment. Recovery girl had made him spend the whole day resting in the hospital bed, even making him do the classwork on the sliding table from the bed. Luckily, he had enough hindsight to give the girls a key each when they moved in, so they should be at home by now. Izuku opened the door and walked inside to darkness. Guess they aren't home yet, probably went shopping. He sighed. I'll cook dinner for them then. Kicking off his shoes and making his way to the dining room, Izuku had turned his back on a slightly ajar door for only 2 seconds before a blindfold was haphazardly put around his eyes and he was thrown off balance to be dragged to the bedroom, where he was promptly thrown onto the bed and restrained with metallic HNDCFFS. Silence as he felt 4 pairs of hands explore his body. Always in control, eh? Kyoka's voice taunted him. It was normal volume, but a shift in the bed next to him indicated the girl was moving closer. Well, not tonight, she whispered seductively in his ear. You're going to be ours, Mina whispered in his other ear. And we'll keep you awake. Uraraka's hands ran up the insides of his thighs. All night long, Toru finished, sitting on his chest. His blindfold wasn't taken off, nor the HNDCFFS removed. Toru's pierced the calm air as she lowered herself to take Izuku entirely. His mouth was suddenly taken by a kiss from lips his recognized as Mina's. And we're taking as many turns as we want tonight, Kyoka promised him. If you're going to do it, Izuku just smiled. At least check my sleeves. In one swift motion he pulled his hands away from the unlocked HNCFFS and wrapped one arm around Mina, dragged her into a kiss again while his other hands suddenly surprised Kyoka by moving around her waist and exploring her body. His blindfold slipped down off his eyes and he looked to see Uraraka stood there, waiting in lingerie similar to the other 3. Maneuvering his hand very careful, he kept his arm around Mina but was able to grab a handful of Uraraka's but eliciting a small of arousal from her. He locked eyes with her, and she smiled coyly before the 4 girls were able to pin him down to the mattress, each of them in their own passionate heat. Izuku had enough for all 4 of them. True to their word, they all took turns, and when they weren't they'd be covering Izuku in hickeys. From the chest down he quickly became a mess of light bruises and arousal. His hands were tied to the headboard with rope this time without him noticing at first. His blindfold was all but discarded now as the bed threatened to break under them. The next morning he woke up, his arms freed and 4 girls asleep around him. Mina wrapping herself around his left arm, Toru around his right, Uraraka literally curled up on his chest, and a weight on his hips told him Kyoka was asleep between his legs. He tried in vain to move any part of his body. Each girl just frowned in their sleep and nuzzled closer to him. He sighed and tried moved his legs. To his surprise, everything below his knees had movement. He crossed his legs around Kyoka and smiled as he felt her arms suddenly rest on his lower legs. A thought flashed in his mind and he was suddenly grateful that he had the foresight to put underwear on. Slowly each girl began to wake up, until he was once again surrounded by 4 very attractive, almost naked girls. Who wants breakfast? Izuku grinned. The four girls' eyes became starry-eyed. They put on more comfortable clothes and began to leave the room. Izuku was the last one when the TV flared to life. "Morning, Dad." "Good morning, Izuku. I take it Tamura already told you?" "Yeah, nice way of getting around my blackmail." "In fact, it was you blackmail that made me realize keeping it from your mother would only do more damage. I was lucky enough as is. I'm on cleaning detail for 2 months and the couch for a week." His father clearly shifted his back. "And I can't turn it into a bed," Izuku chuckled. "That aside, I was hoping you'd have information?" "No, I'm working on it. There's a few more people I need in the family before anything else goes ahead." "Izuku." "Dad," Izuku glared at the screen, "you know I have my method. I've always had Mom's patience. Either way, the results I get will be the ones I want." He stood for a moment and began putting a shirt on. "I wanted to discuss some details with Tamura and you too. I need a lot of time." "Well, time is one thing we can have. We've got a new member to invite to the league. I'm sure you know Stain." "That works out very, very well for me actually, Dad." Izuku smiled. "He'll be in Hosu as the sports festival goes on." "That's correct. He told us he'll be targeting a specific hero." His father paused. "Ingenium." He waited for a moment, unsure of what to say. The two-toned boy in front of him would be perfect in Izuku's ranks, a powerhouse unto himself if he used all of his quirk. "Todoroki, can I ask a question?" He was given a cold glare. Izuku didn't back down. They were currently sat eating lunch. The girls had invited themselves to sit with him when he'd sat opposite Todoroki. The boy in question was currently sat eating his soba. "Why don't you use your fire?" The teen clenched. "Is there something between you and your father?" "Bad blood." "I'm not here to make friends. But having people to rely on makes it easier to face challenges." Izuku leant back in his seat and raised an eyebrow. "Todoroki, something about me bothers you, doesn't it?" The teen ate while staring at Izuku. "I can see the hate in your eyes, burning towards not me, but someone. Is it your father?" "I'm not making friends." "Why not?" "I'm here to be a hero, prove to my old man I don't need his stupid power." "Oh, so you're going to be arrogant?" "What do you? You're only using half your power. Sounds to me like you're saying that everyone here is weaker than you. All you want them to see is how much more powerful you are than them." "I'm not. Honestly, I understand wanting to outdo your father. That's my dream too. I want to prove to my dad I can be better than him, but because I've learned from his mistakes and my own, to prove that he can trust me to do the job like he did. But that's a fear of mine though, that I actually end up becoming him." Todoroki froze. "I'm not that BS2D. "Oh, you aren't?" "Pushing everyone away, check. Claiming to be strongest without trying, check. Looking down on everyone around you, check. No, you're right, Todoroki. How could you ever be a mini endeavor?" Izuku's voice went cold. The girls had been talking between themselves for a while now. "Momo, didn't see you coming," Jiro greeted loudly. Izuku turned. "Hey Yaoyorozu, want to join us?" "If you don't mind, Bakugo's being quite, vulgar," Izuku sighed. "Take a seat, don't worry, Bakugo won't do anything right now." He rolled his shoulders. "We've got combat training again today, don't we?" "Yeah, everyone wants to pair up with you after your plan humiliated your opponents last time." Mina smiled to him. They were referring to the first training session with All Might as their teacher. "I am coming through the door like a normal person." The class went mad. Izuku just stared angrily towards the man that had proven him wrong. He was the reason his father doubted his abilities now. "Good morning, students. Today we're going to be doing." He pulled a comically oversized board from his pocket. "Battle training," Izuku felt himself grinning uncontrollably. They were doing the battles inside. Izuku was ironically the hero team with Mina. It had taken him a minute to start planning. "Mina, use your acid to get the bomb from underneath. I'll distract them." "You sure?" "Absolutely, it's about time I got to show off." Mina had just smiled and nodded to him in agreement. He was fighting Bakugo and Ida. Those two would never be able to fight coherently. "They'll put the bomb somewhere in the back of the building. I'll do some recon as I distract them. I'll radio the room to get under." "Roger." "No, I'm Izuku." They shared a laugh as All Might's voice came over the intercom. "Begin." Izuku dashed in first, up the stairs and running towards Bakugo's screaming aimed at Ida. The door was wide open, Bakugo staring over his shoulder to the speed hero. Thanks for choosing Knuckle Sandwich DLVI. Izuku smiled as he leapt forward, into the room, his fist digging into Bakugo's cheek. Might I recommend our new broken arm pizza? Now with even more knocked out teeth. He slid along the floor, Ida behind him, Bakugo in front. Southeast, far back, he whispered to his comm. Die! Bakugo jetted towards him. Nope. Izuku ducked and kicked him away into Ida. Come get me, sucker. Deku. Bakugo raced after Izuku with Ida close behind. Bakugo, this is highly irrational. Izuku smiled, all according to plan. He'd turned and ducked below a corner, waiting for Bakugo to come and attack. The fight lasted only a few minutes, with Izuku mainly using Bakugo as a way to attack Ida, always causing the blonde to rocket into the taller student. Izuku had fought both of them at once without much difficulty or hesitation. Battle over the hero team wins. All Might shouted over the speakers. Bakugo and Ida froze. No way and no way. Bakugo roared. It's not over until I win. He aimed one of his gauntlets at Izuku. Young Bakugo, stop this instant. I'll show you I'm stronger than you, Deku. Now die. Izuku dashed towards the blonde as the pin was pulled. He grinned as nothing happened. Bakugo faltered as Izuku grabbed him by the throat. You didn't notice, did you? How your arms were getting lighter and your movements faster. He lifted the boy off the ground. I had Mina make some extra acid for me and stored it in some of the indestructible pouches I ordered with my suit. Melting through your gauntlets was piece easy. Bakugo clawed at his wrist. Izuku just dropped him to the floor. Mina came up and leapt into Izuku, hugging him tightly as they reached the observation room. Young Bakugo, if you attempt anything that dangerous or irrational again, you will be expelled. Do you understand me? All Might seemed livid at the teenager. Yeah, sure. I'm not sure you understand the consequences of your actions, Bakugo. All Might yelled again. You are hereby suspended from hero training lessons. He calmed down and turned to the rest of the class. Now who was MVP in this battle? I believe it was Izuku, sir. Momo had put her hand up. He formulated a plan that allowed for practically any teammate he had to get to the bomb, while facing the two villains alone for as long as necessary. Right, you are young Yaoyorozu. All Might smiled. Izuku felt sick looking at it. Well, I don't know who I'll partner up with this time, but I know who I'll go against. Izuku glared at Todoroki. And you better bring more than just ice for my drink. His face fell as Todoroki stared. Before he returned to the conversation, anyway, Yaoyorozu, what can we do for you? Actually, I was wondering about the, arrangements at your place. She looked down at her food ashamedly. Oh, how can I help you there? Well, recently I discovered my family doesn't have the, dirty money? Izuku raised an eyebrow. The whole company is a front for a drag channel in and out of the country? Everyone turned to him. How did you? Well, I did a little research of some heroes that seemingly disappeared off the radar and found some things that were less than my lowest expectations. Turns out some of the heroes that went MIA a while back actually died from overdosing on street drags, but then I did some data mining and found a lot more than some people's worst nightmares. He shuddered. The information had truly been disturbing. All the dealers were workers in your family company. They all seemed to get supplies from some of the warehouses. Rubbing the back of his head, he tried smiling apologetically, and before school began I might have found your dad was chief producer, using his chemical rearrangement quirk to create drags thousands of times more addicting than regular. Oh, Momo spoke quietly, why didn't you? Because if I did you would have been thrown off the hero course. I couldn't do that. To a potential recruit, internally he smiled wickedly, not much longer until she broke. If you're asking for help running away, I'd be happy to help. It'll take some time though, as Tsuyu is moving in soon since her family's moving further afield to make her parents' commutes easier. I'll let you know as soon as you can move in. He nodded. Sorry you can't get in sooner, but it shouldn't take longer than a few days. Are you sure it won't be cramped? No, God no, I'm looking at getting a bigger place anyway, but for now all the girls bunk together. You can borrow my room while you get settled. I'm more comfortable on a sofa anyway. I'm still here. Todoroki growled through his food. Sorry? I'm only paying half attention to the conversation. Izuku gave him a pointed look. And if we're fighting, I'll only give 50% of my energy too. Are you trying to say something? Yes. Have you figured it out yet? Todoroki leaned over the table. You aren't half as powerful as you think you are, Todoroki. Izuku never once looked away from him. You claim you won't use your father's quirk, but tell me, who creates the flames? I do. Who suffers from hyperthermia as a result of the flames? Me. Last question, whose quirk is it? Todoroki visibly paused before answering. See? You don't realize it's your power, your life, because Endeavor beat it out of you. Izuku sighed and stood up at the bell rang, the girls all following him while they chatted aimlessly. Izu, do you really mean Tsuyu is moving in with us? Uchako smiled widely. Of course, I may have fudged the reasoning, but she'll be moving in tonight. Izuku shrugged. Tsuyu looked at him with a frown. How did you? I have my methods, Tsuyu. Learning about your predicament was pretty easy to be honest. He smiled dangerously, just observing your behavioral patterns and maybe have an associate do some digging for me. Tsuyu seemed to smile at him. Thanks for doing this. My pleasure, after all. It's only right I helped that you after you joined our motley crew. Besides, keeping you close is more fun. Izuku wrapped an arm around her. We're all in this together. They continued towards class. Midoriya and Todoroki, All Might cheered. Oh, for F's sake. Izuku groaned, putting his head in his hands. Why, God? Must you make everything harder for me? His words were quiet but his resolve loud. All right, let's get this over with. He walked away to the building in the training area. Todoroki walked over to him and spoke coldly. I know what you're doing, villain. Slowly corrupting our class. Subtle but not unnoticed how you give All Might that sneer and then others look at him in hidden disdain. Why, Todoroki, I have no idea what you're on about. Izuku pretended to be hurt. Come on, there's nothing wrong with talking. You want to make me a villain? I want to make you happy, make all my friends happy. The buzzer sounded. Look, right here. Right now I'll put an offer out. I don't want to run around. I know you want it. They began moving through the building. You come with me and I can cut you free, out of strings and the walls you're trapped in. Todoroki froze the floor as Izuku slid down it. So swap that pain of yours for something colorful. Kirishima leapt out and Izuku ducked under the redhead, causing him to collide with the And it's insane? The two began jumping up the stairs. Be a little insane, Izuku shrugged. You could play it safe and be king of what-ifs maybes, or you could join with me and see. Izuku spun on the stairs. Don't you want to get away? From that painful part you're forced to play, because I've got what you want, so come with me and take the dive. They dove different directions as Kyoka sent a mass of sound waves at them. To the other side, Izuku rolled over to Todoroki while they hid themselves away. So you could do what you do, or you could come join me. They ducked into a room. Stay stuck in the frame or come take the key. Suddenly you're free to fly. He put his hand on Todoroki's shoulder. To the other side, he grinned a devilish grin. Okay, my friend. His hand was shrugged off. You want to bring me in? Well, I hate to tell you, but it just won't happen, so thanks but no, I say I'm good to go. I do enjoy the life you say I'm stuck in, now I admire you, and this whole thing you do, you've got something, really it's something. They darted across the room as walls were getting knocked down. But I live among the heroes and we don't talk so loud, I guess that's just up to you. Izuku grit his teeth, doubling his quirk's effect. Don't you know I'm okay? With this so-called part 1 get to play, I get what I need so I don't need to take a dive. To the other side, they were getting hemmed in, so you go do like you want, I'll just go and be me, ain't locked away so I don't even need a key. They were trapped, aw man, you can see I'm doing fine, I don't want to see the other side. Sheltered behind the last pile of rubble left. Is this really how you'd want to live your life? Targeted, running, always afraid? If I joined you I'd lose my work, disgraced, disowned, just another in the crowd. But you'd finally live a little, maybe laugh a little. I'll give you the freedom to pick. I can wake you up, cure your pain, take you shards and start to fix them. They could hear Kirishima and Kyoka getting ready to launch a final assault. Ice spread on the floor but didn't touch Izuku, but I guess I'll leave it up to you. The floor froze as Todoroki turned to him. Well, it's enticing but to go would cost you greatly, so what role exactly would I be taking? Izuku grinned and adjusted himself. Well, it's fair enough you'd want to see some action. I'd say a member we could snap and make it happen. I don't take orders well, region control would be just fine. Why not just ask for total control all the time? North End. City man. Half the place. District guy. Right hand. Izuku nodded and smiled. Todoroki froze the entire room, creating a small glacier as Izuku stood up and turned to the opposition. Do you think that it's okay? To escape all the parts you're forced to play? He slid up a ramp of ice before Kirishima could break it, because I've got what you want? And I do want to take the dive, to the other side, to do like you do. So you can do like me. Izuku rotated in the air, winking at Kyoka. Forget the traps, cause we now know to be free. Todoroki ran forwards and dropped to the floor, sliding past the headphone user. Kirishima turned around and tried to charge. Oh man, suddenly you're feeling fine, coming to the other side. I'm going to like I do, just gonna be like me. They pushed each other on the ice to split and trip Kirishima up. His quirk caused the ice to crack. Coming to the other side, Izuku suggested again. The two skated again. Kyoka stood readying an attack. This time Todoroki launched himself with a pillar of ice and slid down the wall while Izuku dropped to his back on the floor, sliding between Kyoka's legs. And as I do, I'm coming to the other side. Both boys arrived gently to the fake bomb and rested their hands on the surface. The buzzer sounded again. Todoroki and Midoriya win. All Might roared. Todoroki tried to hide his annoyance. He's always so loud, the teen groaned. Always gotta be loud. And keep the attention on him. Like most heroes, it's either power or fame. Todoroki growled. Dad's a perfect example of the former. Well, why don't we wreak his sheet first once we're armed and ready? Music to my ears. Sports festival. The whole class cheered at a time for fun. Yes, in spite of the fact that the USJ was attacked, we're holding our annual sports festival to show we are not afraid of the villains, no matter who they are or what team they are in. Izuku just bit back a laugh. So it was just a show of power. Stretching in his seat, he cracked his joints. Moving apartments had not been easy. Especially in one night. Even if the apartment was up a few levels, there had still been several boxes of stuff to carry, and Izuku, ever the gentleman, had insisted on carrying it all. Tsu had moved in the same night, so it was one less load for him to carry, but now he had to talk to Momo about her moving in. She was going to be difficult to corrupt, so for now, he'd work on her while she lived with them. Everyone began celebrating and talking as homeroom began. Yairozu, Izuku walked over. If you still want to, you can start moving in as soon as you like. The onyx-haired maiden seemed overcome with joy. Really? Yeah, the groups moved into a bigger place as well. You'll be having my room until we can organize a better arrangement. You can come in tonight if you want to. He grinned. If you want, you can even start calling me Izuku. Then it's only fair you get to call me Momo. She nodded. Okay, here's the address. Just say Izuku's giving you a room. And what about rent? Rent? Well, I figured I'd be paying my share of the... There's no rent. Izuku waved a hand. My dad bought the complex before he retired in order to keep a stable income without costing him time with me. It's an older complex that isn't used by many. We have one neighbor in the entire building. Nice guy though, but you don't need to worry about rent. I doubt you'd be comfortable using the money now you know where it comes from anyway. Momo paused, processing before smiling again. Don't even try pay anything. But it doesn't. Refusing to accept a gift? No, absolutely not. So you won't try and pay a yen? No, if you've been kind enough to organize this, then I will accept it gratefully. If we weren't in class, I'd hug you right now. All right, come by at lunch and we'll organize the time you can appear. Bring whatever you want to keep. Furniture is already there, so don't worry about bringing anything like that. Now I should get back to my seat. Time's almost up. Momo moved in that evening, welcomed by the other girls. She was surprised to see everyone there. Toru, of course, would keep her invisibility up while in Momo's company in case she let slip by accident. Izuku stood in the corner of the main area that acted as the kitchen with a counter jutting from the other wall to separate it from the sitting area. He washed his hands while the girls all welcomed Momo in. Glad you could get here okay? He greeted her. Leave your stuff by the door. I'll move it all into your room. Just get comfortable. I've got to let this simmer for a few minutes anyway. A tea towel was draped over one shoulder while he wore a green apron over his casual clothes. Izuku, are you sure you don't want help? Not at all, I've got this. If you could actually help the others with some of their studies, Mina and Toru are okay, but the other 3 have been struggling. Now there's 6 of you, hopefully the one-to-ones will be more effective. He began moving over to the boxes. Anything you're shy about me seeing? A box with clothing too on it. Right, I'll leave that one on your bed for you to sort out, but the rest I'll organize and unpack for you. He did just that, slowly going through all the boxes, leaving trinkets and pictures on shelves and books on the bookcase. He began taking down his things and leaving them in a small drawer he padlocked. Soon enough it was just his bed sheets remaining to signify this used to be his room. Clapping his hands together, he walked back to the kitchen. Right, so this is called spaghetti bolognese. It's a dish from Italy originally. My dad once took the family there for a holiday. Mom loved it so much she made her own recipe for it. You went to Italy for a holiday? Yeah, but I was like 9 at the time, the brunette shrugged. Your bolognese is the best, Izuku. Bachako suddenly turned around. We haven't had it in ages. You cook a lot? Momo looked more interested by the second. He cooks every night. Mina stretched out before smelling the air, and he's world-class. Dude must have been a chef in a previous life. Nonsense. Izuku waved a hand. I've just spent a lot of time cooking with my mum. He cleans too, Kyoka added. Every Saturday he'll clean up the old apartment. Probably do the same here, but don't even think of touching the dishes after dinner. I learned that the hard way. Toru seemed to shrink. I still don't know how he knew where my hands were. You were wearing rubber gloves, Toru. They slipped off when you flailed in surprise. He calmly continued cooking. Right, so who wants how much? How much did you make, Karo? Enough for everyone to have 3 plates worth, Tsuyu. Plating up the first round, he glanced at Momo, who was beginning to drool. What? Her lips moved, but he couldn't quite hear her. Nothing, I just think it looks delicious. It does have high level of healthy fats too. He handed her a plate. I normally have foods with high fats to keep healthy. I've added some extra fats to your portion for your quirk. Momo was brought out of her stupor by Kyoka nudging her. He does it all, doesn't he? Even got me some earplugs to dampen sound for me. Ochako makes herself float in her sleep some nights, so he's got sickness pills for her, and there's always a bowl for her when she wakes up. Tsuyu's got a fan in her room to keep the moisture up for her. Hell, he got acid-proof coatings for things in Mina's room in case she has a night terror. They looked at him longingly. He really does the most. I care for the people important to me. He shrugged and plated up more food. They aren't just pawns anymore. Thinking to himself, he ran on autopilot. I've lived with these guys, they're not just targets anymore. His body paused. You're going soft, Izuku. No, I am looking after my people. His mind flashed to his memories of watching his dad cook with his mom and doing his best to be a dad and a husband. Looking at him, he didn't seem like a villain at all. Until you saw he was the one fighting heroes, he was just a regular family man. Izuku just grinned madly to himself. Guess I'm more like my old man than I thought. Speaking of, Toru, could you let my dad know we have another flatmate? He'll be happy to hear from you again. Tell him I'll video call tonight after I do the dishes. She already did, Izuku. His father's voice came from the sofa. You've become such a charming young man. I've had to keep your mother from gushing with pride. He smiled bashfully. Although I wish you'd stop being stubborn and let these lovely ladies help you. Even I took help from your mother when she insisted. I've got your skills and her stubbornness. No way I'm accepting help from any of the ladies. Tora got up from the sofa and walked over, putting the small tablet, making the call on the counter for Izuku to see his dad. Besides, I need to keep my skills up if I'm ever going to find a wife. Or 6. Mina called from the sofa as the TV was turned on. Hisashi laughed a hearty laugh. Izuku, you don't even realize you've surrounded yourself with 6 partners anyway? All of them appear smitten with you, with maybe the exception of your newest arrival. However, that's not why I called. I was wondering how the school responded to that horrible attack at the USJ. Titan security, still going on with the festival, a symbol of solidarity. He muttered, anyone want seconds? You made bolognese? His father raised an eyebrow. Don't worry, I made extra to drop off for you. I know you love it for lunch in the office. Just don't let Mom find it. I may have changed up her recipe slightly. You did what? Izuku Midoriya's voice made him leap backwards from the counter. Hisashi grinned sheepishly. Oh, look at that. Gotta go. See you soon. Izuku rapidly pressed the red button to end the call. Scared of the matriarch? Momo grinned, putting her plate on the counter. No, terrified of the telekinesis user that's cross. He dished out her second portion and began laughing softly. Whenever she was annoyed with Dad, he'd get hounded by wooden spoons. Then there was the time He stopped and shook at the memory. No, not reliving that. Reliving what? A memory. Suffice to say, I am never going to enjoy raspberry popsicles again. I can still smell them sometimes when the wind changes. Instinctively, his finger rubbed his nose. Anyway, enjoy dinner. I'll start cleaning when everyone's done. He sat waiting with the other boys of his class. Shoto came over to him. Izuku, he held out a hand. Let's both give it our all. With pleasure, Shoto. This mean you'll be burning things up? Izuku took his hand and stood up. Yes, but I'm still reserved about it, he admitted. However, I'm not going to half-butt it this time. Good. Deku, a voice growled, you better not think that you're going to win this thing, 'cause I'm going to beat everyone. Everyone just sweat dropped before returning to what they were doing. Another figure walked over and greeted them. Midoriya, Todoroki. Hey Ida, you excited? I am nervous, but yes, I wish to show my full potential. Alright, well, here's to hoping we'll face you in the finals. Izuku put out his hand and Ida clasped it. Ida would have to withdraw regardless, as he was about to receive news that his brother was attacked by Stain. Izuku suppressed his true evil smile. Ida would break easy after hearing the news. If he could get Ida to face Stain, it would be even better. They heard Present Mike begin screaming as the announcer. Izuku rolled his eyes and put a finger in his ear, pretending to clean it. His action got a slight chuckle from his two-tone friend. The boys began to leave the locker room and joined with the girls of the class. Izuku was immediately talking with the girls, smiling and wishing them all luck. If the public knew that double agents won the tournament, there would be uproar, especially if they found out one was registered as quirkless. He gave everyone a reassuring one-armed hug before falling into step next to Shoto. Remember, your old man ain't worth shit anymore. They walked out into the sunlight. Izuku put a hand above his eyes to shelter them from the harsh sky. And it's our time to show what we can do now. Their class stood as they waited for the other courses and classes to join them in the stadium. Izuku took note of a girl with pink hair in the support class and the looks class 1B was giving his class. Animosity? Izuku grinned. Maybe once he was done with class 1A, he could ask to move to theirs, double his forces. That would really bite the heroes, having two classes worth of students become villains. Alright, to get this sports festival underway, we're going to let the student with the highest score from the entrance exam give the speech for the festival. Could Midoriya Izuku please come up on stage? He shook his head gently and walked up to the microphone. The students all waited with bated breath. Yo! He lifted a hand as he stooped slightly to the microphone. You all know my name, but that's why we're here, for you to know our names. This is our chance to show our true abilities, our strength, our speed, our intelligence. If you aren't going to try your hardest, then you better leave now, because we are UA students and we give everything we do the plus ultra treatment, meaning we put in more than 110%. So if you think this'll be a breeze for you, think again. We aren't giving up without a fight. So I'm calling all of you out. You better give it your all or go home now. That is why we're doing this festival. That's why we're going to this school. That is why we will be heroes. The crowd cheered for him loudly. Oh, you ignorant, naive fools. Sticking his arm up, he made a ring with his middle finger and thumb. His other fingers were straight, pointing towards the sky. All right. That's the spirit, little listener. Present Mike screamed. Midnight, what's our first trial today? Izuku walked back down to join his class as Midnight began spinning a massive wheel. He leant down to see. High as a kite. He handed her a few yen bills. Her eyes were red to the point I could see it from the mic. The first activity is, Midnight's voice was definitely off-kilter, obstacle course. Izuku sighed and stretched out his body. Around the stadium, a track has been prepared for you to all race. The top 40 get to continue into the next event. He cracked his knuckles. Shoto gave him a side glance and nodded. Izuku gave each of the girls a nod and they all subtly moved together as students got ready to start. Go! Everyone was off. Izuku and the girls began running. Shoto had remained slightly behind them and froze over most of the tunnel, creating a bottleneck for other students. Jump! Izuku told the girls. They all leapt up as the ice crackled under their feet. Other people didn't hear his warning and found their feet stuck in the floor. Everyone that did jump slipped slightly and some fell over. Izuku and the girls were able to support each other until they could skate. Mina took the lead thanks to her familiarity with skating due to her quirk. They all heard whirring as they reached the end of the tunnel. Obstacle number 1, robots. Izuku grinned and hopped off the ice, breaking into a run. The only person that would be faster than him is Ida with his quirk engine, but that was of no concern to Izuku. He got to one of the robots as Shoto created glaciers to impale them all. As he passed the foot of one, he tore off a piece plating and attached it to his right forearm. He grabbed a second on and attached it to his left forearm. People began to slow down. Izuku saw the chasm up ahead. Obstacle 2, Mega Ravine. Sliding to a halt, he found the beginning of a wire. It reached across to a pillar halfway through the ravine. Lifting his arm up, he used the metal plating to break the stone around the cable and grabbed hold of it. I hope this works. He hopped back and dashed towards the edge. A layup. He dropped into the ravine. The wire suddenly tensed and he stopped falling, instead swinging back up in an arc. Yeehaw! He called out as he released the wire and flung out the other side of the ravine. And it's Midoriya Izuku to cross the ravine first. You can see Bako Katsuki and Todoroki Shoto are close behind him though, both gliding over obstacles with ease. Present Mike told him practically everything he needed to know. Third and final obstacle, minefield. He managed to stop just before the small glowing devices buried in the floor. Alright, think. Shoto and Bakugo raced past him. I'll slow him down, Shoto spoke hurriedly. Izuku grinned and began striking the earth around the mines with the plating from his arm. It was tiring and people began to overtake him, but it didn't take him long to achieve a large amount of explosives in a pile. I sure as hell hope this stuff is as strong as it's meant to be. He jogged over to the pile and leapt almost over them, slamming the pile on the far side with the plating. He was shot forwards by the ensuing explosion and carried over the course at incredibly high speeds. A glacier appeared again as Shoto tried to slow Bakugo down. In half and half. Bakugo screamed as he began to fly up it. Mind out! Izuku cried, grinning madly. I may have stole a page from your book. He soared over Bakugo and barely cleared the glacier before he was sliding down the other side on the plating now taken from his right forearm and under his feet. Shoto was tiredly sliding down it, barely able to keep himself stable. Ah, good sir. Izuku slung the other plating from his left arm and held it out to Shoto. Care for some snowboarding? Shoto grinned and took the plating and managed to climb onto it. The two boys began to slide down the impressive glacier as Bakugo cleared the top. You? He roared. Huh? What? You're so far behind I can't hear you. Izuku yelled back. Shoto began laughing. Care for some entertainment? They began to weave around the ice, kicking up fine powder into a massive cloud. Shoto even added his own ramp to jump over Izuku as their paths crossed. The ice cloud grew bigger and bigger. The cold would stop Bakugo from making any explosions and the heavy mist took away his line of sight. The other two boys began to lean forward and gain as much speed as possible. They began to reach the tunnel for the finish. After you. No, after you, Shoto grinned. No, please, I insist. The two had a mock battle of pleasantries. It would be rude after you gifted me such a fun piece of equipment. Please, you first. The two just laughed. Alright. How about we finish side by side? We're equals, so let's finish like it. Izuku crouched slightly and leant back, but we're going to hit it fast and hard. Title of your SEC tape. Shoto giggled. Don't, Izuku said too late. I'm just glad we've managed to get you to loosen up. Hey, video games do wonders for the soul. The internet is magical too. Oh, and if you're gonna run away anytime soon, we can get you sorted with your own apartment. You know, so you can have your own space. They were enveloped in the darkness of the tunnel. I may take you up on that. History's been really unbearable as of late. They began to slow down. Izuku. Yeah. What about the girls? Oh, Mina's going to tunnel her way through your ice with her acid. I gave Tsaiwi a heat modulator to make sure she'd be alright. Momo's going to be going up it with Ochako and Kyoka. They'll be behind Bakugo at the finish line, but on actual boards. And Toru? Right here. The voice cheered on Izuku's back. I've been hitching a ride since the start. Her clothes became visible. I'm going to say I used the explosion to jump on before Izu completely took off. You've been on his back the entire time? Yeah, I jumped on in the tunnel while everyone was distracted by your ice and concealed my clothes before we hit daylight again. It's been difficult on projecting the field so much. The tunnel exit grew closer, and we're finished. Izuku grinned as his plating slid to a halt just past the finish line, right next to Shoto's. And it looks like we have a three-way tie for first. Present Mike screeched. Midoriya, Izuku and Todoroki Shoto have snowboarded their way to victory while Hagakure Toru has hitched a ride on Midoriya's back. The crowd erupted in cheers. Izuku just raised a hand and waved with an award-winning grin. Just smile and wave, guys, smile and wave, he muttered through gritted teeth. Other students began filtering in with relatively high times. Izuku signaled the girls over with a celebratory wave and they all huddled together in a group hug. Nice going, team. Now the next game is probably team-based, so who wants to partner up with who? Well, it's ill-advised I or Hagakure go into a team together as will be immediate targets. Unless it's, Izuku began. The second event, Midnight called out, will be a cavalry battle. The 40 students that passed will have a brief intermission to form teams of 4 or 5. That, Izuku flicked a hand to Midnight, which means that there's going to be one rider with one headband. Toru could be the rider with the band. No one would be able to figure out how to take it off her unless they can tear it off. Shoto could lead with high offense and defense. I'll be back as I can be a lookout, girls. Actually, Mina rubbed her cheek with one finger. We figured out how we want to team up already. Since there's 8 of us, Momo organized 2 teams based on your points. Oh, Izuku smiled. So Momo, what did you have planned? Mina, Ochako, Tsuyu and Kyoka on one team. Uraraka can keep that team weightless, so Tsuyu would be mobility, Kyoka would be air control and Mina would be the offense and defense. Leaving you with me, Shoto and Toru. Momo, you're a genius. If we weren't in the middle of school I'd kiss you. Izuku. Momo gasped, going red in the face. What did I say, something wrong? And no, it's just, you surprised me with the directness. Izuku just laughed and lessened his quirk. Sorry, Momo. Didn't mean to make you uncomfortable. It's okay, Izuku. I get you're giddy about getting through the race. Right, so since we have like 30 minutes, anybody up to get popcorn? He spread his arms. They all cheered and nodded. Nobody paid the 8 any mind as they wandered away to the stands. Izuku sighed as he laid down on his back. The situation was sudden, something he'd not expected to be thrown into. The sniper sat comfortably in his hands as he rolled over onto his stomach. Hisashi had given him training when it came to firearms. A whole lot of training. Izuku remembered the trip down to the countryside they'd taken when he was 15, where his dad had challenged Izuku to hit 10 bullseye in a row by the end of the week. Staring down the sights, he saw his first target. The two-tone teen had their back to him right now. Sorry, Shoto. The boy fell backwards, pink staining his chest. Shoto Todoroki has been taken out. Present Mick's voice boomed through the arena. Winning the cavalry battle had been simply for Izuku and his team. Begin! Present Mike screamed. Izuku covered his ears and adjusted his position. Shoto was the front horse while Momo and Toru supported him. As a group, they decided that Izuku would be the rider since he had the best hand-to-hand abilities. This was quickly proven as Bakugo had screamed and leapt at Izuku, away from his team. Izuku had simply leapt into the air to meet him, grabbing his headband and planting his feet firmly into Bakugo's chest. One push launched Bakugo away across the arena. Shiro Hunta had used his quirk to try and save them, but Bakugo was moving too quickly. The blonde crashed into the arena wall and fell to the floor silently. Izuku maneuvered in the air and was caught by Shoto before hitting the ground. They reconstructed with Izuku now attached to Shoto through HNDCFFS on his ankles, courtesy of Momo. The rest of the battle saw Izuku simply pushing other people away since they had the most points. Grabbing more only added unnecessary targets to them. By the end, the 3 supporting him were tired and Izuku's arms stung from getting hit and scraped so much. They were hoping for a break before one-on-one tournaments until laughter broke over the intercom. To switch things up now, instead of a tournament we're having a free-for-all. The principal's voice was sadistic at best. If the passing teams could go to see Snipe for a rundown of the rules, we'll begin in a minute. Izuku tried climbing down, forgetting that he'd been cuffed by his ankles, causing him to fall backwards and hang off Shoto, who was unsurprisingly dragged down into the heap. Shoto, I had no idea you were so forward. Ha, you wish womanizer. Both of them began laughing as Momo undid Izuku's restraints. They regrouped with the other girls. Mina and Ochako both hugged him tightly while Kyoka and Tsuyu looked at the floor. We're sorry, Ochako seemed close to tears. We lost our headband. Izuku just patted her head. Did I say you had to win? No, but did I say something would happen if you lost? Well, you lot can help me cook dinner tonight if you really feel like making it up to me. The four immediately lit up, Tsuyu and Kyoka also getting in on the group hug. Now go get some good seats. What happens next you'll want to watch. The girls ran off and Izuku joined the rest of the students by the pro hero Snipe. Our last challenge will be a battle royal paintball tournament. Snipe announced, you'll get 3 types of gun, far range, medium range and close range. The hero then explained the ins and outs of guns before letting students pick their weapons and paintball. Izuku spotted out of the corner of his eye an excited Pinkette that seemed more interested in showing off how she could upgrade the guns more than winning, and a tired boy that seemed prejudiced against the other students. Izuku looked around. His classmates were a minority here. Kaminari, Kirishima and Shiro had all been with Bakugo and were unfortunately disqualified after Bakugo's stunt. Sato, Koda and Shoji were left after Mineta hadn't made it through the obstacle course. Tokoyami had bowed out with Ojiro both claiming they didn't remember taking part, and Ida had left due to familial emergencies. Left was Class 1B and the 2 students Izuku had seen. Despite being told to come up and pick up a paintball gun, everyone was shifting uncomfortably, unsure of what happened next. Izuku rolled his eyes and walked forward to Snipe. I'll take the green rounds please. He slung a sniper of his left shoulder, an assault over his right and put a waist bat on to hold the sling for a revolver, which he then picked up. Which shade? Dark green please. Izuku flicked his wrist and the revolver chamber clicked out. He inspected it before loading it with the first 6 rounds he was given, clipping it back into place and putting it into the holster. Good luck guys. He walked off shortly before everyone else made for the table. Izuku flicked his scope up and looked at where the paintball had come from. That pink-haired girl he'd seen earlier was laying with a sniper too, except she didn't have a scope on hers. Must be a quirk, he muttered. A splatter of green was next to her in a moment. Her sight was retrained onto Izuku, who leant up from his sniper and smiled. One hand was brought up to the side of his head, his pinky and thumb sticking out. He saw the girl hesitate. Another shot later and her foot was colored dark green. Immediately she curled to it and Izuku caught her lower back with a 3rd shot. Mei Hatsume has been eliminated. Izuku looked back at the streets. Several people were engaged in a firefight. He sighed, pulled the bolt back and loaded a full clip before taking aim again. A orange-haired woman trying to use a combat pistol beyond its effective range. Splat. A girl with vines for hair praying as she used her hair for a shield in front of her, leaving her back wide open. Splat. A boy that seemed to be made out of steel yelling apologies and that his manliness was at stake. Itsuka Kendo, Ibra Shiozaki and Tetsu have been taken out. Izuku looked further down the street. Something whizzed by his head and he looked over his shoulder. A pinkish blotch sat on the air vent next to him. He quickly rolled over and dropped onto the mock fire escape. It was honestly amazing that the school was able to build a mock city so quickly. Imagine if Cementos actually helped build for the city, we'd have the housing crisis solved by now. He grunted, getting up from the metal grating. Using his scope, he checked the street again. More people were on the main streets, trying to grab each other's guns. Izuku dropped another level and aimed again. Splat. Setsuna Tokage has been eliminated. He dropped another level and aimed again. Splat. Sheet. Izuku dropped the empty clip and dropped another level. He'd missed in his rush and startled the student to more cover. Alright, new approach. He dropped the rest of the way and moved to the front of the building he'd previously nested on top of. People were still too focused on each other to notice him slide under a mock semi-truck made by the support corps students in preparation for this event. He tilted his head and looked down the scope again. Splat splat splat. Nairenjiki Shoda, Pony Tsunatori and Kozai Tsuburaba have been eliminated. Who is our mysterious sniping student? They've taken out 8 students, half the competition by themselves. Izuku shuffled backwards and sat against the wheel of the truck. He was left, along with Momo, Toru and 3 students from Class 1B. 6 left. Toru would have got 1, May got Todoroki, I've gotten 8, that's 10. I've got 2 now, sorry babe. Izuku rocketed from his crouching position as a yellow splatter filled the area he'd just been sat in. I'm the one apologizing here, you can't fool me honey, he saw the floating body armor. Don't think about it. About what? Going for your assault rifle, take it off. Geez, all you have to do is ask nicely, he teased, sliding the strap from his shoulder. Lowering himself to one knee, he put the gun on the ground. Send it over. Izuku pushed the gun before putting his hands back slowly. Don't try anything funny. You took a risk coming straight at me. It was calculated. Then we need to work on your math. Splat. Toru Hagakure has been eliminated. It appears our mystery gunner is none other than Class 1. Izuku. Thanks, Mike, Izuku whispered as he walked over to Toru. Sorry baby, that's gonna bruise. There was a dark green covering the stomach armor. I'll make it up to you at home. You better. She kissed his cheek before standing up. Go get him, Tiger. Momo's been giving you looks too. Try and play nice. Izuku just smirked, shaking his head. You got it. Yui Kodai and Jiro Hananuki are out. We're down to the last 3 folks. Make that 2, a voice whispered as Izuku turned around, revolver in hand. A student made of all black with gray hair materialized out of the shadows, a pistol pointed at Izuku. Splat. You spend too much time on your monologue. Shirhai Kurwaro has been eliminated just like that and now we're down to 2. Izuku walked away from the shocked student. Something pinged next to the truck as he walked out, causing him to reflexively duck behind the car next to him. He looked through the car windows and saw a bright flash of light before the car window was covered in pink paint. This isn't going to be fun. Taking his sniper again, Izuku poked his head up at the next window. This time there was no paint fired. Alright, the window caved under his elbow and he climbed into the car. Again, the other window was smashed. He ducked as a paintball flew through the car, barely avoiding his head. 3 shots of 5, let's do this. Opening the car door slowly, the aspiring villain dropped onto the street and dashed towards the next cover, sliding as soon as he had the speed. Splat. It hit the floor just past his head. 4. He surveyed the area, another cover just across the street. A straight dash all and he crossed it. Splat. Just behind his heel. Momo was clearly a very good shot. Izuku took up his known sniper, aiming where he'd seen Momo's scope reflect the light. She'd used her quirk to create an impenetrable shelter with a sniper hole in the wall facing the street. The window was empty as Momo was either ducking or had moved to the side to reload. Izuku steadied his breath, the sniper barrel resting on the back of the car as he watched the window. A blur of motion and Momo was rolling onto the street. Oh god damn it. He threw his sniped away and readied his assault rifle, immediately stringed down the scope again. Momo ducked as he opened fire. You know this can only end one way, she yelled from behind her cover as Izuku slowly advanced. Yeah, with you on your back. Izuku shot back, firing 2 paintball. You're outgunned here, sweetie. He ducked behind a barricade as Momo appeared holding a minigun. Really? They said we could use our quirks, I just made the mechanism. Paintball after paintball colored the road around Izuku's cover. He waited. Do you know why they don't just always use a minigun? Because it's heavy? Another few seconds. Because it overheats. The firing stopped and Izuku stood up. Splat. Izuku Midoriya has been eliminated. Momo Yaoyorozu wins. He stared at the onyx-haired woman, a pistol in her hand, the minigun on the floor discarded. How'd you move so fast? Momo lifted her arm to reveal a holster on her side, in a perfect position for her to grab it seamlessly after discarding the minigun. He dropped his own weapons. Clever as you are, beautiful. All right, everybody, we're taking a break to let everyone get ready for the awards ceremony. Momo gave Izuku a furtive glance. They barely made it to the changing rooms before Momo was undoing Izuku's shirt, her hands running against his chest. Their body armor and weapons had been hurriedly given back to Snipe. Their lips met as Izuku leant towards her, his own hands enjoying her body. He pressed her against the lockers using his body to pin hers. "You really wanted me, huh?" He spoke breathlessly as he broke the kiss. "I need you," she almost begged him. "How could I not?" As she began stripping herself, Izuku finished undressing. Everything was discarded on the benches or over open locker doors. "You've cared for me, helped me." Her hands scraped down his back as he began kissing her neck, skin and liking the sensitive skin. "Oh God, you've been nothing but selfless, offering to help me even though you knew, Her fingernails began digging into his back. "You knew what my parents were." "I don't care about your parents," he muttered as his hands grabbed her thighs and lifted her up. "You are an intelligent, gorgeous woman that could have the world at her feet in a day." He hovered her over his hard member, looking up at her for permission. A gentle nod and he began to lower her. "How am I supposed to not want you?" They both hummed in pleasure as Izuku filled Momo. Her legs wrapped around his waist while her arms thread under his. He began to slowly move. Izuku, Momo couldn't stop herself from miming as he moved tortuously slow. Don't stop." Once again her hands tensed up and her fingernails dug into his back. "Please don't stop." He began kissing her neck again. His own eyes turning into vibrations against her delicate skin. They peeled off the wall and Izuku carried her backwards, his moves never stopped. At this point Momo wasn't using words. Not realizing Izuku had even moved her as he laid her down on the bench and redoubled the power in his movements. Her arms went limp momentarily, falling from his back, only to rest against his chest, tracing the outlines of his muscles. Momo gazed into his eyes. His breathing came in heavy pants. Me. Izuku raised an eyebrow, top. Nodding, he carefully slid a hand underneath her before lifting her up again, unintentionally causing her to take his entire in one moment. "Ooh, so full." Momo looked down at the tiny bump currently on her abdomen. Now Izuku turned around and sat down, bouncing Momo on his lap. Her hands pushed his body backwards until he was laying on the bench. Momo began grinding against his hips as her hands remained on his chest. Izuku could barely contain himself anymore. His hands rested on her hips as he kept moving gently. The two didn't slow down. They existed in their own world for the moment, not caring about anything around them. Incidentally, neither of them heard the door creak open slightly and clothes appear as they were tossed aside. "I hope you weren't having too much fun without me," Toru's voice floated out in space. Momo seemed startled before something turned her head and began to kiss her. "I've got a secret to share with you." Her stuck voice did nothing to slow the couple still moving automatically. Momo was pulled again into a kiss, however this time Toru's body appeared, beginning with her lips, until the blonde was fully NDE next to Momo, whose hips appeared to actually speed up. Izuku panted slightly as his member seemed to harden with more power. "Izuku, you weren't really going to leave me out this time, were you?" He looked into her blue eyes and smiled. Without hesitation her legs were either side of his head. She held Momo's free hand. Izuku attacked her folds with his tongue. One hand moved from Momo's hips to Toru's hips. She began miming with Momo before the onyx-haired girl pulled her into a kiss. It seemed Toru's appearance and joining in had stoked the fire in Momo, who kept grinding against Izuku, but this time with more heat and energy, causing Izuku to mmm with his tongue deep inside Toru. The vibrations in turn made Toru into Momo's mouth. All three together. Toru began moving her hips, desperate for Izuku's tongue to go deeper and tease her more. "Izuku, don't stop," they together before mashing their lips once more. Izuku happily complied. Her legs began to tense around his head. Momo likewise seemed to tense up and accelerate her hips. He could feel his own orgasm building. "Momo, going to come?" "Hold on, just another." She climbed off of him, turning around. Her legs rested either side of his chest as she stooped low. He felt something warm on his D, and then the sound of slurping accompanied by a tight feeling again. Momo, you should have just asked. Toru leant forward and began tasting Momo, who was glistening with her own juices. The vibrations from Momo's M's shook Izuku's core, but his tongue didn't relent. Oh, so close. Me, huff too. Momo's words were garbled but still registered to Izuku. Toru was first, her legs clamped around Izuku's head and she began to squeal into Momo. This brought the taller girl to her orgasm and she began to gargle on Izuku. His resolve broke, sending waves of cum down Momo's throat, while he drank Toru's juices in return. She lifted off his face and wiped her mouth, Momo's juices dribbling from her chin. Izuku grinned and lifted his head, attacking Momo's vulnerable pages. His sudden appearance and seemingly unstoppable tongue meant he was able to get into her deepest parts. No, Izu! His hands gripped her waist and stopped her from escaping as he triggered a second, greater orgasm throughout her body. As she moved upright, her body was shaking from the sheer pleasure still crashing through her. Izuku sat up and looked at them. Momo smiled and opened her mouth, sticking her tongue out. You took all of it. Toru smiled and kissed the girl again. I can taste it on your tongue. Izuku could feel his de-hardening again. Both girls looked at him and smiled before they walked over to him. Save it for later, champ. Momo kissed his cheek, stroking his chest, dragging her nails down him. Or maybe, she grabbed hold of him, I can get you back for what you just did. Izuku just grinned and looked at her. You couldn't handle everything without losing your mind. That a challenge? She gave him a few strokes. We're going to be taking turns again tonight. I take it you're joining us from now on, Momo? Toru knelt down in front of Izuku. Like I'd ever miss out on this. Momo kept stroking him slowly. You know you want to Izuku, she whispered in his ear. It took maybe 20 seconds for him to grab Toru and lay her on the bench before picking up Momo by her thighs and digging his tongue into her again. Momo supported herself by pinning Toru's hands to the bench. His hips moved like a jackhammer into Toru's. Ah yes, right there. Momo ummed as she looked over her shoulder. Momo, let me taste it again, Toru whispered, lifting her head up. The two began kissing again while Izuku dug into both of them, all three giving into their carnal desires. Izuku adjusted his shirt as the podiums began rising. He stood on the second tallest, on his left was Momo on the tallest, on her left was Kuwaro on the shortest podium. And now to present the medals to our champions. Midnight began. I am here to present the medals. All Might. Ha! Ha! Izuku just looked up at Momo, who shifted her hands slightly in a subtle, pay-up gesture. He flashed back to their rush to get to the podiums. I can't believe you were able to. He is powerful. Toru kissed his cheek. He was able to take me, Mina, Jair, Tsuyu and Ochako in one marathon without running out of steam. Then maybe I'll be the straw that breaks the camel's back, Momo smirked. We'll just have to find out later tonight. All right, will our champions make their way to the podiums for the ceremony? Izuku and Momo stared in shock. Did we really go so long? He began furiously buttoning up his shirt. Momo seemed indecisive as she pulled up her second stocking. You all right? Yeah, it's nothing. Come on, we need to hurry. See you later, Toru. Izuku threw his blazer on and chased after her. Toru, tell the others we'll be one stronger this time tomorrow. He watched her smile before she disappeared. Dashing down the halls, he caught up to Momo. Hey, what's up? If it's what's just happened, you don't need to. No, God, no, that was perfect. She shook her head. It's just, I can't stay here. Why not? Well, my parents make money off exploiting people. Heroes give them a pass to do whatever as long as the supply doesn't stop. Who knows how many are on their payroll? Or worse, taking payments in hits. Her eyes grew watery. I can't in good faith become a hero, not one like them, that focuses more on personal gain than doing their job. She tried to turn, but Izuku grabbed her hand. Momo, do you really not want to become a hero? I saw Midnight's eyes. Aizawa's showing a cane addiction as the days go on. I've looked into all the heroes around my parents' company and 3/4 of them get drags from a worker. The others are on payroll to keep quiet. I can't see heroes in the same way, not to mention. Mention what? Izuku squeezed her hand. Take your time, we've only got to get to the podiums, he reassured her. She sniffed. they forced me to make equipment so they could grow their ingredients and make their own supplies. I didn't understand when I was younger, but, oh God, I helped them. They forced me to make gold for them as well, and expensive things. They forced me to do it all. Izuku brought her into a hug and rocked slowly. Momo, do you hate the world? His question was innocent, his quirk barely in use. Yes, of course I do. It's so messed up and filled with lies and betrayal. What if I offered you a place with me? A place where you work with me to break this corrupt world down and rebuild our own, stronger, better world? Would you like that? Yeah, her hands rested flat against his chest. I would like that a lot. All right, you want to keep walking? Okay, she nodded into him. Their fingers entwined as they began walking again. How much do you want to bet midnight's too high to remember what to say? Izuku offered. No, she'll say things but too slowly. Willing to bet a bath on that? I win, you've got to join me tonight. You win, we do it tomorrow. Deal. He'd nodded with a sly grin, knowing whatever happened, tonight he'd be having a bath. Young Midoriya, you have shown incredible tenacity and courage throughout the entire festival. I hope you never let this fire die. All Might pulled Izuku from his thoughts as a silver medal was draped around his neck. You've exceeded any limits and surpassed all expectations. No one can ever call you helpless again. Izuku reveled in the slight twinge of regret in All Might's voice. He nodded solemnly. I'll keep giving it more than my all. He looked at the silver medal, not the first time and certainly not the worst time he'd come second. Overall, a fine addition to his collection. Young Yaoyorozu, you have earned this medal, after working so hard, even helping classmates in the obstacle course. You never let up. No one can ever say you lack skills again. You have incredible talent and I can only hope you foster it in the right ways. Of course, All Might, I'll keep getting better. Momo nodded, but Izuku noticed that she was subtly flipping the hulking hero the bird from her fist hidden next to her hip. He smirked and waited. Now everyone, what do we say now? Plus Ultra. Thank you to all our participants. Who? Izuku resisted the urge to put his head in his hands. Well, I thought everyone did a good job. Izuku shook his head and hopped of his podium. Momo gazed down at him. He waved a hand. She sat down and shuffled off the edge. He caught her as she fell, one hand under her thighs, the other around her shoulders. Her face went bright pink. I know you sprained your ankle on your mad dash. Don't know why you were running though. He shook his head, his voice just loud enough for people to pick up on. You were shifting uncomfortably the entire time. I got you. Let's go see if Recovery Girl can help you. Her face cooled down slightly as she leant into his chest. Thanks. Don't worry about it. Her fingers subtly traced his chest again. You didn't bruise? The armor was very strong, but there's gonna be a bruise tomorrow, he grunted. As they approached the exit, Izuku could see the other girls waiting. You guys enjoy the show? Not as much as you enjoyed the after party, Kyoka smirked. Izuku raised an eyebrow. Toru spilled. I figured, but I meant what after party? The ceremony just finished, after party's back home. All the girls giggled. You okay, Momo? Hips, sore, she yawned, very comfortable. He'll have that effect on you, Mina chuckled. I remember a time we'd gone to the mall just before USJ. He carried all the bags and Ochako home. She fell asleep before we'd left the shopping mall. Izuku laughed as Ochako went scarlet. He carried me on his back at you. I'd argue that's just a comfortable. Tsuyu leant on him gently. No way. Mina jumped onto Izuku's back, causing him to stumble forward slightly. Strong muscles. Momo didn't shift in his arms. Is comfy. Her hips swayed against his back. Hey, no fair. Ochako whined. How come you get to be carried? She jumped onto me. Momo needs the help. Something tugged as his right for a minute. Careful to not lose his balance, Izuku felt something soft on his shoulders. Toru, you can't be serious. I am in fact very serious. She spoke from above him. I was here first. I'm not a prize. Thighs materialized either side of his head. Her hands ran through his hair. No, but you are incredible. Her legs crossed around his neck. Her body began disappearing again as they moved into sight of the crowds dispersing. Greenie! A voice yelled out from the crowd. Suddenly the pink-haired sniper from before charged over. You're the guy that came second, right? Yeah, what about it? You've just got yourself a support technician. What? You're quirkless, right? That means you need gear. I can help with that. Oh, I've got so many ideas for babies to make. Hold up. Goggles, Mina smirked, were the only ones that baby make with the stud. I think she means her gadgets and inventions, Izuku muttered at the now embarrassed inventor flailing madly. Midoriya Izuku, since you need to know my name, what's yours? Hatsume, inventor extraordinaire at your service. He'll be servicing you soon enough, Kyoka whispered. Hatsume didn't slow down. Anyway, if you need anything, come by the development studio and tell Power Loader you want me. Or that you want him, Ochako smirked. Izuku coughed. Right, well, thank you Hatsume, I'll come over when I can next. Right now I should get this one to Recovery Girl. Then can we head home? School's over for the day. Toru leant forwards and her hands rested on his ears as if they were handles. Sure, I can cook dinner tonight. The bed was a serious risk of breaking with all the movement on it. The moment they'd got through the front door, the girls had practically jumped Izuku, stripping him on their way to the bedroom. Tsuyu was first on him, rubbing his stiff member. Finally I get my turn, she whispered, her tongue lolling out of her mouth and wrapping around Izuku, stroking his entire D-dash. She hovered over him for a moment as Mina was second on the bed. Don't hesitate, Mina pushed the frog girl down as she lifted a leg over Izuku's head. Tsuyu's tongue dropped away from him and dangled against her body. Izuku wasted no time, grabbing Mina's hips and dragging them back to him, burying his tongue deep in her. Someone's eager. Please, Izuku groaned into her, you're already dripping down here. His tongue wiggled slightly, making Mina tremble as Tsuyu's hips bounced up and down his D-dash. Next to him he could hear Kyoka and Momo on them together. Kyoka leant forwards and put a hand behind Momo's neck as they scissored. Enjoying it here? She whispered. Oh, God, yeah, Momo groaned as Kyoka pulled her into a kiss. The other side of it, Tsuyu, Mina, Izuku Triangle Toru was busy teasing Ochako. Doesn't it look incredible? One of her hands rested on Ochako's neck, preventing her from turning away from the Don't you want to join in? Her other hand had been massaging her inner thighs and now slid up. Of course you do, you're so wet, Ochako could only whimper as Toru's fingers teased her. As Tsuyu let out a loud croak, Ochako gasped. Toru drove her fingers as far as they could reach into Ochako's folds. Gaha! Izuku could hear Ochako's ems. It only served to make him harder. Something Tsuyu noticed as she got faster. Aizu. His hands moved from Mina to Tsuyu as he began moving. The green-haired woman seemed to go limp from pleasure as her head lolled backwards. I'm going to. Mina grabbed her shoulders and dragged her forward for a kiss as the orgasm hit her. Mina began twitching around his head. Don't stop so close. Izuku just smiled and brought one hand up to his chin. As his tongue entered her again, his finger and thumb began teasing the outside. Mina cried out in shock, barely able to hold herself anymore. Oh, there, keep going too. Her eyes began rolling backwards. Izuku made one last return and drove as far as he could go, twisting his tongue in ways that should be impossible. He drank her orgasm greedily. Mina slumped onto the bed next to him. Tsuyu soon crawled up to kiss her and the two began Junji the other. Our turn. Toru grabbed him and moved in such a way that Izuku was stood at the edge of the bed, Ochako laying in front of him with Toru on her face. Izuku smiled as he began to enter Ochako. Ooh, forgot how big he is, she ummed. Enough talking, start eating, Toru commanded, shifting herself on Ochako's face. Immediately the brunette's hands grabbed Toru's thighs. The blonde shuddered in front of Izuku as the woman underneath her began assaulting her most sensitive areas. Izuku began moving again, slowly at first, his hands occupied lifting Ochako's legs to let him as deep as possible. Toru's hands teased Ochako's nipples while she leant forwards to kiss the greenette. Her miming into his mouth only helped his pacing, moving harder into Ochako, who in turn ummed into Toru and kept the cycle of ems going. His hips met Ochako's and the brunette all but screamed into Toru. What? Whatever you're going to her, don't, oh God, don't stop. Toru leant away from him for a moment, her body shivering in joy. Izuku just grinned and lifted Ochako's ankles to his shoulders, letting them rest on his frame while his hands gripped Ochako's hips. Her hands rose up to begin pinching and teasing Toru's nipples in return to the blonde doing the same. Gonna. Her body began spasming, her mind clearly overrun by pleasure. Come, sorry Ochako. The brunette didn't seem to react until Toru stiffened. She's liking it off. Izuku kissed the blonde as he kept moving. The brunette groaned. Ha going too. Her legs fell from his shoulders as her hands dropped. Coming. Izuku kept moving as the orgasm washed over her. Toru gently climbed off her face so Izuku could look at her. How are you still? Stamina, I've got lots of it, building it all up, plus I know where to get with all of you. Care to test that? Kyoka challenged as she presented Momo, spreading her lower lips for him. Izuku walked around the bed and picked Momo up. She instinctively wrapped her limbs around him. His arms lifted her knees as he lowered her onto him. Yup, he knows, Momo ummed, leaning into Izuku's shoulder. Can you feel it? He whispered. She nodded. Good, now create something that could help Kyoka do this to you, but don't forget she has to feel good too. Barely able to keep the groan from his voice, Izuku nibbled Momo's earlobe. Something dropped onto the floor, then again and again, until 4 objects hit the ground. Can't, leave anyone, out? Kyoka was the first to pick up. It appeared to be a strap-on but with a DLD on both sides. She put it on and the moment the clasp was put together she froze. It's spinning inside. She was barely able to speak. Izuku smiled and turned around to lay on the bed. Momo looked down at him before a hand ran through her hair. Momo, it's going to need a bit of help. She smiled and took the toy in her mouth, slobbering over it until it was coated in her spit. Kyoka smiled before pulling it away. Momo was disappointed until she and Izuku watched Kyoka move behind Momo. Kyoka, what are you? Momo was pushed upwards as Kyoka moved into her, hard. Ooh of dash. Her forehead rested on Izuku's shoulder, both holes so full. She looked over and seemed to stare almost jealously. Izuku followed her gaze to see that the other 3 had jumped Ochako and left her in the same position as Momo, with Toru in Izuku's position and Tsuyu in Kyoka's. However, what separated the groups was Mina kneeling next to Toru's head, her DLD down Ochako's throat, making it bulge ever so slightly. Izuku shook his head and began shifting the girls closer to the fursum. He saw Tsuyu and Kyoka turn to one another and begin kissing deeply. Kyoka's jacks disappeared behind both girls and they jumped slightly before swaying their hips, playing with something from behind while still moving fully into their respective girls. Momo began panting and liked Mina's strap-on while it was retracted from Ochako's mouth. You want it too, Momo? Mina teased, a hand in each of the girls' hair. Both girls began to drag their tongues over it, liking it and parts of Mina as they took turns with it in their throats. Izuku looked over to Toru, who seemed as lost in desire as he was. Who would have guessed taking you hostage would have led me to this? He asked as he kissed her. She pulled back, a thin trail of saliva connecting their lips. I'm so glad you took me instead of someone else, she whispered before kissing him again. I love you, Izuku. I love you, Toru. They kissed again, breaking apart only for breath. I love all of you. Ahs of agreement filled the air. We all love you too, Izuku. Mina was barely holding it together. Is anybody else close? Kyoka and Tsuyu nodded, not breaking their kiss somehow. Momo and Ochako simply gurgled while trying to nod with their mouths on the strap-on. Oh god, I'm going too. Toru looked into Izuku's eyes. The pressure was almost unstoppable now. Let's all come together, she spoke as she rushed to kiss Izuku one last time. A single great cry sounded from the 7 adults as they all were overcome by individual orgasms. Izuku felt his deep pulse while Momo clamped down on it. Their breathing all matched as dry, heavy pants. Izuku and Toru both grunted as everyone proceeded to fall on top of the pair. Momo and Ochako laid together on the bed. Kyoka and Tsuyu were rubbing their heads respectively. Izuku entered with Mina and Toru holding trays behind him. You girls rest up, you're probably the most sore out of everyone, he spoke as the trays were rested on the laps of the bedded girls. Ochako just nodded wordlessly while Momo sighed. It was fun, most definitely enjoyable, but next time, please could we use something else instead of spit next time? I can make other stuff, you know. Izuku smiled. Alright Momo, we'll keep that in mind for next time. He turned his head to look at the screen again. Dad, what can we do for you? He sat on the edge of the bed. Everyone began to crowd around him. Toru made herself comfortable on his lap, Mina leant into his right, Tsuyu into his left, Momo and Ochako were able to lift themselves onto his shoulders and Kyoka rested her chin on his head. They all blinked at the screen for a moment. It wasn't on earlier, don't worry, Izuku reassured all of them. I take it Tamura complained of noise? Actually he's saying he missed you guys as neighbors? Hisashi shook his head. Anyway, your mother was wondering if you were coming over for dinner tomorrow, to celebrate your silver and Momo's gold as well as everyone's valiant efforts. Mr. Midoriya, you don't have to, Momo began. We'd love to, Dad. We had the plan to introduce Kyoka and Tsuyu as well, plus I can get some more recipes from Mom's cookbook. Yes, about that. She would like to ask what you did to her bolognese. Oh, just changed the sauce and added some herbs. I can write it out for her if she wants it. She'd love it. She was just surprised that you were confident enough to try your own spin. Izuku laughed. I take TI your roster is still incomplete? Yeah, actually I need to talk to you about that. Give me a moment, girls. Izuku extracted himself from the pile and walked out of the room, through the main room into his own spare room turned into an office. He flicked the monitor on in this room and disconnected the previous screen. I don't want them hearing this, it might upset them. Alright, what's your problem? How important is Stain to the league? Is he an incredible piece? I would argue not, seeing as you've got the son of Endeavor on your side. Why? He went after Ingenium. I have Ida Tenya in my class, who withdrew from the competition to see his brother in the hospital. I feel this is the beginning of how I can bring Tenya over to our side, however the end may require him to kill Stain. The work studies are coming up soon and I plan on going with him to the low-level manual hero agency, or at least an agency nearby. There's a possibility that he won't kill Stain. It's just minimal, isn't it? Hisashi sighed. Very well. Stain is of no importance to the league, he never was. It was simply his skill we were after, not his fame. Are you sure the Ida boy will snap? Apply enough pressure to even steel and it'll break. He's had weight on him since day one. Now he feels obligated to avenge his brother. There's not many other ways it can go, Hisashi laughed. Inko, come here. Izuku's mother appeared on camera. She stared for a moment before giggling. I'm sorry, my son, but worry not. Your partners do not think lowly of you, he twitched. You may want to check the other room. I turned the display off. You turned your screen and speaker off. I can still see them all. Oh God, it's so cute. Inko began gushing. Izuku, if you don't love all of them, you should. See you tomorrow evening. He spoke hurriedly and ended the call before dashing back to the bedroom. He opened the door and double-checked everything was off. There was an unnatural silence behind him. No one moved. Turning around slowly, he was pelted by 6 pillows. 6 oddly shaped pillows. 6 green oddly shaped pillows that almost looked like me. The pillows were suddenly taken and the girls collectively laid under the covers together. Momo, did you make literal body pillows of me? A low humming filled the room. Not even asking what that is. What, you're soft and cuddly and we want cuddles. Mina pouted. If you want cuddles, just say so. Izuku climbed onto the bed. Better get comfy because I'm cooking dinner soon. Can we have katsudon again? Ochako asked as she curled up on his chest. Toru crawled under his right arm while Mina took his left. Tsuyu and Kyoka cuddled together. Ensnared by his legs. Sure. Momo curled around his head, holding his chin, almost lifting it to his stomach. They all sighed contentedly around him. He himself let out a tired yawn. Dinner could wait. Izuku sat back on the train. The class had been let out for their internships and he was on his way to Hosu with Ida. The blue-haired boy didn't realize, however, as Izuku trailed a few steps behind the tall student silently. Now he sat several seats behind him on the train, texting a group chat. King, are you girls sure you're going to be alright? Gravity? Never heard of it. Yes, Izu. Amp it up. I'll be fine. Mrs. Maker, I should cope. King. Alright, well, you guys know you can call me whenever you need me. You've all got the recipes, right? Can't see Nami. Izu, babe, stop worrying so much. We're all ready, packed up and good to go. There's no need to worry, okay? King. Okay. I get it, you all packed your body pillows? Several people are typing. Izuku quietly chuckled to himself as he switched his phone off and slipped it back into his pocket. He could see Ida sat impatiently tapping his foot. His quirk engaged slightly and he saw Ida's foot hit the floor harder with each tap. The train began to slow down, both of them stood up and picked up their luggage, quickly making it off the train and into the bustling crowds. Izuku kept Ida in his line of sight and his quirk passively in effect. The two kept walking until they reached a building that looked ever so slightly out of place. Matching the other office buildings around, at first glance it appeared nothing more than a block of offices for city jobs, but looking at it twice showed off that it was in fact a hero agency. The crystal blue painting on the walls and the water-centered design made it stand out just a small bit. Izuku followed Ida in and laughed. Ida, I didn't know you'd be interning here. Midoriya. It's always nice to see a friendly face. Ida turned and greeted him in surprise. Why did you pick the agency? Didn't want to get in a lot of fights, you know, just kinda keep my head down until I'm more capable. I can understand that, Midoriya. I hope to see less action too. USJ showed me that I'm not as skilled as I previously thought. Hey, Ida, don't blame yourself for that. Villains weren't supposed to be there. We can't exactly blame ourselves, can we? Izuku rested a hand on Ida's shoulder, lacing his words with his quirk. No, I guess you're right. You two must be our interns. A hero dressed in a white and blue shirt tucked into orange gloves and a pair of dark blue trousers and white boots walked over. I'm Manuel, you'll be doing some patrol routes with me over the next few weeks. I hope to give you a good experience. Don't worry, Manuel-sensei, I'm sure this week will go perfectly. Izuku smiled. My name is Midoriya Izuku, my hero name is Deku. You can do it? Nice name. And that means you're Ida Tenya, correct? Yes, thank you for having me. Ida bowed. My hero name for the meantime is simply Ida until I can pick a better name. Alright then, Ida, too. You have today to get settled in and then tomorrow it's time for your first patrols. Both boys bowed as they were dismissed and followed directions to their rooms. Izuku sighed as he laid on his bed. Ida was tough, but his picture of heroes was beginning to falter. He pulled out his phone to find the group chat still bustling with activity. He read from where he'd disembarked the train. Everyone vehemently denying their body pillows even existed. King, you can't lie to me, I saw them, just say you've got them. Can't see Nami. Okay, we all have them. Pinky, Hagakure. Gravity? Never heard of it, Hagakure. Kermi, really? Amp it up, snitch. Mrs. Maker, I guess he was going to find out eventually. Mrs. Maker. Yes, we all have our body pillows. Sleeping without you is something of a challenge now we've spent so much time with you. Izuku just smiled. Momo had been part of the group for little over a week before they tried sleeping alone in preparation for internships, which ended up failing miserably after one night with all of the girls individually moving back to their spot around Izuku. He didn't complain though, it had been nice waking up with all of them again. King, how's the internships? Kermi, I have discovered I get seasick exo. Gravity? Never heard of it. Don't like it. Gunhead's afraid of outright confrontation with anyone except a villain. Amp it up, they're not even letting me help, I'm just going to stand outside the building with my jacks in. Pinky, I'm not even going to get to be near a fight, they've said I need to evacuate people away from the battle, my quirk literally melts through stuff and they aren't letting me rescue people. King, that's because they don't want you stealing the spotlight. Mrs. Maker, I wish I was kept away from the spotlight. Myself and Itsuka are stuck doing advertisements 3/4 of the week. King, that's because they want the CC upcoming heroines to learn they're only heroines to look good. King, this is exactly why I want to tear the world down. Modern heroes are nothing more than showmen, dragging the name of goodwill through the mud. Izuku sighed and changed chats for a moment. Izuku, Shoto, are you okay? I mean, going to your dad? You sure that's the best idea? Shoto, he can teach me how to use my fire before I shatter him into iced crystals. Izuku, alright, well, good luck making it through the week. When it happens, don't follow what I message. Shoto, you sure? I mean, it's the hero killer. Izuku, yeah, I'm not a hero though, so he won't kill me. Shoto, fair, alright, good luck. He dismissed the chat and checked on the last he needed to be in. All for one JR. Shigaraki, you ready? Hanzi, we'll be moving out in a few days, hold out until then. All for one Jaya. Fine, just make sure you look like you're really trying. He turned off his phone again and looked at the ceiling. Out of his window the sun was setting, turning the sky orange. He silently stared into space, absorbed into his own thoughts. Ida was his biggest challenge yet, and he still wasn't sure how to break him down. Letting his troubles go with one breath, he closed his eyes. Looks like he'd be winging it again. The routine had been boring to say the least. Get up, get dressed, eat, walk for the day, get changed, go to bed. 3 days they did this for. Izuku was tempted to use his quirk just to get Manuel to take them somewhere entertaining, fearing he may blow his own brains out from sheer boredom. This evening, however, was the evening things were going to go his way. Ida had been looking around a lot over the past few days, and now he was going to act out. Izuku watched him in the peripheral of his vision. They heard a yell in the distance, and Ida stopped before turning and racing off. Wait, Ida. Don't worry, Manuel, I'll get him back. Izuku turned around. But neither of you can use your quirks. Don't you remember Manuel? I don't have one. He began running after Ida, who was sprinting away. I got this. The two easily outpaced the seasoned hero, causing him to lose their trail amidst the alleys they ducked into. Stain! Ida yelled as he jumped to kick the villain. A child? He growled, pulling his knives out. The pro-hero native was leaning against the wall, a bleeding wound in his stomach. This is new. You attacked Ingenium, my brother Tensei. You took away his ability to be a hero. A brother acting out because his brother was a fake hero. He was not a fake, he was the kindest hero I'd ever seen, helping everyone he could. He was the best hero and the best brother. You stare through rose-tinted glasses, child. Stain was easily able to strike Ida while he remained relatively unhurt. You do not know what he hides. And you do, Ida barked. Stain simply kicked the boy away and liked his blade. Ida gasped as his body stopped moving. I do, in fact, he uses his agency to smuggle illegal items for sale on the black market, mainly firearms, but also types of blades and drags. He was and is a false idol, a liar and cheat hiding behind a mask. How dare you talk about him like that? Ida cried. Stain walked over to him, kneeling by his head. A small piece of paper was dropped in front of his face. Izuku kept his quirk on full, targeting Ida. Stain was doing his work for him. All three of them may be able to walk out of this alive. There are his bank records, transactions, and other statements showing he gains a lot more income than just hero commissions. But he, Tensei, would never. That's what he wants you to think. Have you never questioned why he appears too virtuous on camera? How his voice never changes? Stain held a small screen for Ida to watch. This video is one that security cameras at Yokohama docks found. Now correct me if I'm wrong, but that's a long way from here, isn't it? Izuku could almost feel Ida breaking. Isn't that Ingenium's armor? And there's his face. Still believe that he's an angel? That's impossible. He's supposed to be a hero. I'll admit he hasn't been the worst one, but he's still inciting conflict on both sides. Native here was trafficking humans as slaves or prostitutes, keeping them locked up below his agency. Stain growled. So I let Ingenium live with a chance to make up for what he did. Izuku stepped backwards from the two. But I can't just let you leave. Ida's phone buzzed as Izuku sprinted towards the pair. He silently jumped and lashed out with both feet, kicking Stain down the alley. Dikairu. Ida, I'm sorry that it's just me. I tried calling for backup. It didn't work. I just sent out our location as well. Hopefully someone's going to be here soon. Another brat? Well, I don't normally kill children. I'll have you know we're both in uni. First years, yes, but still uni. I still have to kill you. No, you don't. We can all walk away from this. Heroes are on their way right now. I have enough speed to keep you busy until they arrive. So you can try fight us and get caught, or go now before you get caught. Midoriya, what are you? Ida hissed. I'm bluffing. Izuku lowered himself closer to the paralyzed student. Chances are there isn't any help coming. I can't hold him off, but I need to get you both to a hospital. I can't carry you in native, so running isn't an option. He grit his teeth. So I'm taking a chance, and bluffing. Midoriya. Look, Ida, he's right, I'm sorry. but a hero otaku like myself does a lot of research, even so you can tell you. Ingenium uses his agency as a front, I've seen it myself. Other heroes aren't going to interpret our location as an SOS, they're all too busy trying to look like the best with the Nomu attacking the city. There's Nomu in the city? Only 3 or 4, I heard a few heroes yelling about it while I was trying to find you. None of them spoke about following the trail of native, they were more focused on getting the cameras on them. Ida slammed his fist down. Why are these heroes so deceitful? I don't know, Ida, but if we get out of this, how about you and me go out and break the world down so we can build a better one, where heroes are always held to their ideals? Izuku bit his lip. This was a massive chance. Midoriya, are you suggesting we become villains? I'm suggesting we do what others won't. If we're going to change the world, we have to do what needs to be done. Very well, I shall bring back the true meaning of hero once we get rid of the leeches that drain it of the kindness that made it. Stain seemed to pause before he laughed. 2 after my own heart, I think I shall let you live this time, but no, I will be watching you both very closely. Izuku got ready to fight as Stain crouched before jumping into the air. He fell to his knees. Holy shit, that was Eddie scary. He turned to Ida. I'm glad we were able to make him leave us alone. Yes, so am I. Our fake-out worked. Fake-out? Deku, you didn't hear him? Look at what my older brother was doing. He was supposed to be the best of them, and look at this. Ida picked up the paper. I believe my own brother, the man that inspired me, was like this. Don't worry, Ida. If you're really serious about this, I'll happily help you out. Come on, up you get. He began slowly lifting Ida to his feet. Native's dead? He was dead when we got here. We were able to bluff our way out of fighting Stain by claiming backup was on the way. Ida nodded as they agreed to let the pro-hero die. She eyes still flickered with the smallest bit of life. But what if someone arrives before he bleeds out? What? Ida, what are you saying? You heard Stain, he makes a living off of ruining lives. It is a miserable excuse of a hero if ever there was one. With a gloved hand I'd pulled the blade Stain had left behind out of Native's wound and then dragged the blade up and through the hero's chest. Without freedom there is no order, but you have abused your freedom and taken the lives of others for your gain. Native, you are not a hero. He pulled the blade out as Native laid helplessly on the ground before him. How are we going to explain this? Ida, give me the knife. Izuku held out his hand. Without hesitation the blade was handed to the greenette, who quickly cleaned and hid the weapon in one of his many pockets. Just like that, the blade's gone. He returned to supporting his friend. Come on, big guy, let's go get you to a hospital. Izuku sat with Ida while the latter rested on a hospital bed. So let me get this straight. The police chief sat in front of them. A man with the head of a dog dressed in a formal police uniform. You heard Native screaming? Yes, sir, Ida nodded. And you decided to chase after him to try and help? Yes. Izuku leant back in his chair. Upon arriving at the scene, the two of you find Stain had already killed Native with 2 fatal wounds? That is correct. However, you, the chief pointed at Izuku, arrived slightly later and saw Stain begin to attack your friend. Izuku simply nodded, after which you jumped in to kick Stain away and began bluffing. Not entirely, sir. Izuku held up his hand. The police chief was about to snap at him before Izuku pulled out his phone. I broadcast our location as an SOS message, hoping maybe someone could figure out that we needed help. It was a long shot, but as I was facing Stain I figured that maybe bluffing heroes were already en route would save us. And then Stain decided to leave? No, I had to keep bluffing, claiming that heroes were already on the way. His quirk was going to be useless against 5 to 10 heroes at once. Just kept talking to make it seem like I really was buying time. And then you had your phone play the sound of rushing footsteps? Yes, a soundboard app on my phone had the pre-recorded noise so I could add it to videos. Fortunately, the alley acted as an echo chamber and he couldn't tell it came from my phone. Izuku opened the app and played the noise for the chief. At that point, Stain took his blade from Native and fled to the rooftops. It was a clever plan, Midoriya, but it's still lucky that he decided no to try kill you before he left. Make no mistake, I know that I am very lucky that he decided it wasn't worth the time. He shook his head. I'm still very shaken about it, but I was able to save Ida at least. As for Native, I'm sorry there wasn't anything I could do. You did your best, Midoriya. That's all we could ask for. Aizawa spoke from besides the chief. I should have been in the area since so many of my students were there, but Nizu dragged me back to the school for some reason, what I don't know. It's not your fault, sensei. There was tons of heroes around, and from what everyone's told me, the Nomu were taken out in minutes. Endeavor himself took out one himself. There was plenty of other heroes that could have come to our aid. Well, since neither of you used your quirks and there wasn't any damage done, then neither of you are in serious trouble. However, please don't go running off like that again. Manuel was worried about you. We'll apologize when we get back to the agency. Ida nodded. Both the chief and Aizawa nodded and left the room. Izuku pulled out his phone and called his dad. Izuku? Are you okay? I saw Stain was spotted in Hosu. Did he get you? Hey Dad. Yeah, I'm fine. Ida and I ran into him, but I was able to bluff my way out of it. We're both okay. Stain got away. Ah, okay. That's good. Hisashi understood the tone. I'm glad no one was hurt. Actually, we tried to save Native, but he was dead by the time we arrived. Oh, are you alright, Izuku? Seeing someone die hits you in a different way. I'm okay, Dad. I promise if something's wrong I'll call you, alright? Okay. I'll go tell your mother everything. I take it your internships are on pause for now? Yeah, I've been told to look after Ida since I ran off to cover him, and he's been sanctioned to paperwork duty until the internships end. Ah well, can't win them all, Izuku. I know, Dad. I'll see you soon. See you soon, Izuku. The phone call ended. He took a deep breath and turned to Ida. So how are we going to do this? He'd barely gotten into his room when suddenly he was tackled and pinned to the floor. Aizu, don't you ever scare us like that again. Toru wailed from next to him. He tapped the floor with his free hand. Uncle Mercy, breathe please. His voice was harsh as he tried to talk with his crushed lungs. I give. The weight disappeared and he took a sharp breath in before rolling onto his back. What are you guys doing here? We all rushed over because the heroes we interned with were called in. There was like 20 no more out there. Mina was first to talk. Then Manuel comes along asking if anyone's seen you or Ida. He was running around and each of us ran into him while fighting Nomu. He said you two had rushed off somewhere and then we heard Stain was in the area. Kyoka tapped her jacks together. We all thought he'd gotten you, Tsuyu murmured. Ochako fidgeted next to her. Izuku stood up and looked at his 6 girlfriends. Toru tackled him to the bed. We said you were our boyfriend after Manuel ran off and we were given permission to go looking for you. She grabbed his chest. We spied your room from the street and all of us crept up to come check on you, he sighed. Was it that obvious? Your window is constantly open. There's never a light on during the day and we could hear the fan rumbling from street level. Momo nodded towards the fan on his desk. I'm sorry, sleeping with 6 hot women around you makes you like being cold. Izuku threw his arms up in mock exasperation. I take it your heroes are in town for the night to help clean up and all that? Toru rolled off of him. Yeah, we got the night off though, so we aren't tried for work or carry over late nights back to school. Izuku got up and walked over to the wardrobe he'd stored his clothes in. Then it's a good thing I packed. Expected you all to visit me at some point. He calmly began changing into his pajamas in front of the girls. Well, come on, otherwise someone'll come in before we're asleep and drag you all out. Moving aside, he revealed his wardrobe also had a set of pajamas for each girl and a set of clothes for the morning. They all quickly began getting changed. Izuku heard footsteps by his door and motioned for everyone to hide. Midoriya? Ida's voice broke through the door. I heard a loud noise. Is everything okay? Izuku opened the door enough to stick his head out of. Hey Ida, don't worry, I just tripped over getting out of my costume. As you hurt? What? No, I just fell on my back is all. Ida, I'm fine. We've had a long day. Go rest up for tomorrow. We're going to need energy to cope with the boredom. Yes, paperwork sounds so glum right now, but at least it gives us a chance to do some data collection. True, very true. Izuku nodded. I'll bring my phone down tomorrow so we can snap some pics if anything looks useful. Sounds good. I shall go now and let you sleep. Good night, Midoriya. Izuku, just call me Izuku. Then call me Tenya. Dope. Night, Tenya. Good night, Izuku. The Grient closed his door and sighed. Tenya was going to be the undoing of him if he went unchecked. Turning to his bed, he saw 6 bodies piled up waiting for him. It sure is a cold night tonight, Toru whispered. Won't you help us keep warm, Izuku? Without a moment's hesitation, Izuku walked over and held all 6 girls close to him as they cuddled on the bed. All things considered, today's been a good day, he sighed. Toru nestled closer to him and nibbled his ear. But the night's only just begun. Thank you for the internship. Both Izuku and Ida bowed to Manuel. It was the end of the week and they were heading back to the university to finish up the program. The two had spent the entire time organizing paperwork as punishment for ignoring orders and putting themselves in danger against Stain. Both of them had accepted it apologetically, but in truth they had gone over everything and made note of any bonuses that Manuel had his sidekicks found at the end of each month. The information hadn't even been protected very well. Izuku could barely avoid laughing as the pair walked towards the train station. Midoriya, I was thinking about your predicament with getting more sympathetic to our cause. Maybe it would be wise to try and find someone in Class B. Ida adjusted his glasses and looked ahead. I know we have limited class interactions, but surely it'd be more beneficial to have someone in our sister class also scope for potential recruits? They walked into the station and began making their way to the platform. You may be onto something there, Ida, but honestly I'm not sure who to go after. I could attempt to get Kendo or Showdown on board. Is that worth the risk though? You'll have 2 people and trying to find out while keeping at least one in the dark. You make a compelling point. They boarded the train, but then who do we go after? Well, maybe I can go after someone outside of school. Izuku snapped his fingers. I got it, Ida. Next time you have a representative meeting, talk to Kendo, find out if someone is struggling in academics, suggest they come talk to me and I'll be able to handle things from there. That's a brilliant idea, Midoriya, but I foresee one flaw. Ida rubbed his chin. Correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't you currently also helping every female member of our class with housing? With the exception of Hagakure, of course. Actually, Ida, she lived with me first. We went with neighbors to keep suspicion of our backs. Ah, wise choice. I doubt anyone has any idea, he nodded, but makes your problem even harder to solve. How is the student from Class B not going to notice all the female members of our class in your home? I guess we have to fine-tune it a bit, maybe start studying in the library, and then once we feel we can trust them we can bring them into the actual group. He smacked his forehead. But where are my manners? Ida, I understand that you're probably a bit weary of going home, so if you want a place I'm sure I can make space for you. Midoriya, you are a true friend. I think I'll take you up on that offer. However, I'll go home for a week or so to see if there's any information I can gather that we previously missed. All right, Ida, I'll keep working over the plan. Maybe run it by some of the girls? And Todoroki too. Sounds good, but I think it'd be better if we have you talk to Kendo. Apparently she's been talking more to Momo because something seems off with her. Ida made a dark face to Izuku. She needs to work on her lying. The brunette laughed at Izuku's worried expression. Do not worry me like that. I thought she'd let slip. Oh no, she never got that bad. Kendo has been overly interested in Yayarosa's life outside of school recently. Great. Well, we'll worry when it becomes problematic. I'll talk to Momo. Izuku grumbled the first half of the sentence. All right, Ida, if you can just intervene enough to throw her off the scent, we don't need someone snooping. I'll do my best. What have you for now? I take it you'll find another in our class? I already have one in mind. Izuku nodded. Tokoyami Fumikichi. The brunette stood with his classmates as they listened to Aizawa dismiss them. Tokoyami. The class began to dissolve as people walked away. The bird-headed man paused for him. Hey, how was your internship? Heard Hawks was a beach to study with. It was interesting. He worked us to the bone, man. Tokoyami's quirk, dark shadow, emerged from the man's back. I've never felt thinner. Izuku chuckled lightly, pressing his quirk on the pair. Wow, sounds like he's a real SLV driver. He is. Dark Shadow nodded. Dark Shadow? Tokoyami snapped. We shouldn't be so rude to someone who gave us their time. Did he give you his time though? Izuku shrugged. Sources tell me he did the fights and left you to clean up. Dark Shadow nodded. Hawks was fast, often too fast for us to keep up. He dealt with things quickly as heroes should. Tokoyami tried to excuse the hero. But he didn't deal with it, did he? I don't understand. I mean, he left you with a villain and the police, forcing you to sort everything out. You had to talk about something you didn't even properly witness. He might be onto something here. Silence, Dark Shadow. Tokoyami, why are you so against Dark Shadow? His innocent question startled the avian-headed man. I mean, I thought you two would get along better than anything else since you have a telepathic link. Dark Shadow does have a link to my mind. He doesn't, however, have a filter between the mind and the mouth. So Dark Shadow just says your inner thoughts? Not all the time. I am original with most of the things I say, the sentient Quirk argued, but I just say the things he's too embarrassed to say. That doesn't seem so bad. The greenette shrugged before chuckling. Maybe you should talk to him instead of relying on your mental link. That may work. Awesome idea, Midoriya. Shadow held a thumb up. Is there another reason you two don't get along? Tokoyami was about to say something when Dark Shadow jumped in. People thought I was demonic and Tokoyami was a freak because of the physical effects of my presence. Izuku frowned. Well, that's not fair, didn't it hurt? Of course it did, it still does, Tokoyami murmured. Maybe we should change that, Izuku offered. We could change the world the way you want to. His quirk had been in effect completely the entire conversation now. Tokoyami smiled at him. How could we do that? We are only university students, what can we do? We're exceptionally powerful university students. Let's not forget we are Udata students. Ever the UA dropouts are considered powerful and dangerous? What are you suggesting, Midoriya? Simple, Tokoyami. I'm suggesting we get as strong as we can here and go out to change the world. His optimistic spin on being villains caused Dark Shadow to laugh. They answered him in unison. Sounds like a brilliant idea, Midoriya. We're in. The two men shook hands. Izuku smirked. Tokoyami was an easier target than he'd predicted, but then again, discrimination and spite are powerful motivations to fall into hating the world. They began chatting amicably until they heard a shy voice. And Midoriya? Izuku turned around. Midoriya, Izuku? Yes, that's me. What can I do for you? My name's Tokage Setsuna. I've heard that you're one of the top students in Class A and I was wondering, it was a girl about his height with darker green hair flowing down her back. I'd be happy to help if you need it. He nodded and smiled warmly. Tokoyami, I've just got to head to the support workshop. You go and talk to Ida about the plan for our next training. Tokoyami nodded and turned around. See ya later, Midoriya. Dark Shadow waved before shrinking into Tokoyami's cape. So, Tokage? Yeah. Care to walk with me to the shop and talk about why you want my help? They reached the door and Izuku had a great sense of foreboding. Hold on a second. He grabbed Tokage's arm. As if on cue, the doors were knocked across the hall. Whoa, how did you? Gut feeling. He shook his head. I also have a feeling that it was caused my one Hatsume. Someone say my name? Do you need babies made? Hatsume, I advise you work on your vocab. You'll give students heart attacks if you keep up. Not to mention you could get prohibited from working due to investigations into Haris, and you're feeling me up? Wonderful. The man rolled his eyes and the pinkette had already begun joining his chest. Tokage just stared. Don't worry, Tokage, she's just excitable when it comes to making things, he reasoned. Anyway, do you want to go and start figuring out what you want to cover first? I just need a moment with Hatsume about some new gear she made me. The green-haired woman nodded and began walking away. Well, when opportunity knocks, he mumbled, or blows the door off rather. In truth, the walk had been to start Tokage's corruption and get a read on her weaknesses. However, now he had time to kill, and since the school day was over. Muscles! Hatsume greeted cheerfully, completely forgetting the fact she'd been invading his personal space seconds prior. Hatsume, Izuku just nodded and smiled. Would you like me to repair the door? Yes. I don't have time. Too busy making babies. Hatsume, please work on your phrasing, he whined as he picked up the steel door. The outside was currently against the floor and was as pristine as the rest of the hallway. The inside was, on the other hand, almost completely charred and blackened from taking so many explosions. Fixing the door back into its railings wasn't difficult. He had it back up in minutes. The problem was heaving the steel FING door without equipment, but he wasn't about to complain. No, he needed Hatsume in a talkative mood, and the best way to do that was to let her keep going. Sliding the door back into a closed position, he made sure to quietly lock it. Now it had less chance of falling over. It also meant he wasn't about to be interrupted. Muscles, I was working on this. A small silver bracelet and single-sided visor were thrown his way. It can read out a target's pulse, their body language, internal temperature, like if they're lying, general readout of a person honestly. He equipped it and it highlighted May. Her emotions and energy began showing up as bars under her name in a profile hovering next to her body. If someone is faking an energetic personality, I know it's an act. Hatsume. No, I was thinking more. What? She turned to him slowly. This. With one hand he gestured to her body, dressed in oil-stained overalls holding a spanner and a wrench with her signature steampunk goggles on her forehead. Is an act. Her fear filled up and most else emptied. I don't know what you mean, Mito. Muscles. May laughed nervously, well tried to anyway. It sounded more psychotic than his father winning Monopoly. Now that was a sinister laugh. Izuku had to play with him again sometime. You're looking at a scared, uncertain woman. Stepping forward slowly, he watched her lean on the desk with support equipment in development on it. One that is afraid of people not accepting her anxiety and fear of not being good enough. He stepped to her back, a hand trailed up her arm. Hatsume shivered, her arousal was rising. You're projecting as if your failure is just a stepping stone. You don't tell people things won't work properly because you fear they won't trust you. A hand rested on her shoulder before she turned around. Midoriya, I. See? What happened to Muscles? Hatsume faltered. It's okay, you can talk to me. His silky voice reassured her as his quirk slowly began seeping through the cracks. You're scorned, aren't you? There was someone who crushed your dreams without a second thought. Who? Kamui Woods? Mount Lady? Anger rose slightly. Death's arms. Her voice was a whisper. He did the same to me when I tried helping someone when he watched what happened. I was a kid, testing out something in the park, just a motor for a skateboard, and before I know it some kid stole the board, pushed me off and ran away with it. When the engine caught fire, he appeared and the kid blamed me. Death's arms didn't even listen to me, told me what I did was dangerous, that if I was trying to be a support item developer I was next to hopeless. Small tears began falling down her face. So I decided to do all of this just to prove him wrong. Anger and sadness rose. Again. But it still haunts me. What if something blows up again? What if something winds up hurting someone or worse? She lifted herself onto the workbench. Izuku's hands rested either side of her. What if I kill someone? Have other heroes said similar things? A small nod. It's okay, he whispered to her. I know it stings, but it's okay. She was almost ready. They're not fair, are they? Not kind or supportive like a real hero should be. I hate them. I know, a sage-like nod. I do. Now can I ask, is there anything you want to do about it? Like what? What can a failure of? You aren't a failure, Izuku interrupted. Nor will you ever be. You made it to UA, that has to count for something, right? A thumb rubbed her thigh. I still couldn't do anything if I wanted to. And if you were to join a group of others that didn't like heroes? It. Her breath hitched, for barely a second before she caught herself. Izuku smiled. Like for instance, if you were to join me? But that's so dangerous, villainous? Wrong. And isn't that the most alluring part? Slowly he leant forwards. I mean, think about it. You have full access to the same school that produced the heroes like Death's Arms who scorned you and told you to give up. Her eyes met his. Doesn't it seem poetic to destroy it from the inside out? Who else is there? Mainly just the girls of 1A, Fumikage, Todoroki and Ida, but we haven't got anyone with as much brains as you, Hatsume. May. We haven't got anyone with as much brains as you, May, he corrected and smiled at her. Why waste your talents on people that would never truly appreciate you? May smiled to him with watery eyes. And you appreciate me? The gap between their lips became nothing as he kissed her slowly. Her tools hit the ground and her hands took his visor off before resting on either side of his face. His hands slid up her thighs to her sides. Legs locked behind his waist. Once she pulled away, a thin trail of saliva connected their lips. We should get cleaned up before anything. I have a solution for that. His hands moved to her but gripped firmly, getting a small eep in surprise from her. Now we just head to your shower. I'm glad I built the living area now, she giggled, cupping his face. The hot water ran down his back as he pinned Mei to the wall, kissing her ferociously. Stood in the small corner shower, the two pressed their bodies under the shower. Her back was against the wall while his hands gripped her arms. You going to keep me in suspense? She smirked, raising an eyebrow. Izuku just rested his head on her shoulder. If you think you're ready for it, he nibbled her earlobe and put his hands on her waist. As she looked down for a brief moment, enough time for him to move from her earlobe to her neck and begin skiing and biting on her skin. Her knees buckled inwards slightly as a hand clutched Izuku's hair. Her other hand scraped his back. Give it to me. One hand slid to her thigh, lifting it gently. In an incredible show of gymnastics, Mei lifted her leg up straight, resting her foot on his shoulder, leaving herself open to him. Resting himself at her entrance, he pressed lightly. She shivered slightly and gazed at him. That all why Gripping her waist, he pushed further into her. Oh, go D. Leaning back into her neck, he shrugged off her foot and guided it to wrap around his waist instead. Want more? He whispered before giving her another hickey. Yes. Mei had her hands on the wall trying to keep herself from falling over from pleasure. Give me all of it. You asked for it. He nibbled her earlobe one last time as he pushed all the way in. She began tiptoeing on her remaining foot. Gripping her, but he lifted her up, but kept her pressed against the wall. Her legs once again locked behind him as his hips slowly moved back and forth. Mei gave up holding onto the wall, instead opting to wrap her arms over Izuku's shoulders and pulling their bodies as close together as possible. She gripped down on his member with each move. He was reaching places Mei forgot she had. His hands needed her, but as he lifted her up away from him before slamming her back down against his hips. Her BRSTS bounced with each move, sending her up. Pleasure overtook both of them as the cycle continued. Izuku, her ems were barely stifled by the water hitting the floor. Don't stop. He turned his head to kiss her while driving himself somehow even deeper into her. Wasn't planning to. He punctuated each word with a grunt and a move. Her hands went back to the wall, scrambling for anything to let Izuku get deeper. He seemed to push her into the wall harder, filling her as much as he could. Her eyes began rolling upwards. Don't go, getting lost on me now, he grunted, finishing his sentence with a powerful move. Oh God, is you? Giving up on the wall, Mei flung herself back over Izuku and tried pulling as close to him as possible. Fool. His breath teased her ear before he began nibbling it again. Her fingers became claws, dragging down his back. Don't stop anything. Izuku just remained wordless, his only noise being repeated grunts. His pace began increasing. If you keep going like that, I'm gonna. Pleasure filled whatever of her sanity was left as her orgasm crashed harder than the water from the shower. The sudden tensing around his PP brought Izuku to his own orgasm with a powerful groan. Mei went limp in his arms for the moment, catching her breath. She could barely manage a word between gasps. Never told me about this. Never asked. He held onto her tenderly before she felt something poking her. You can't be serious? I may or may not have a secret quirk that means I no longer have a refractory PRD. Well, we can get rid of your energy later. For now we probably should shower for real. Izuku smiled and kissed her a last time. All right, he acquiesced. Hey Mei. Izuku rubbed his hair dry with a towel while Mei got into a clean set of clothes, a basic shirt and jeans. Their shower had lasted considerably longer than anticipated due to both of them wanting to go again. 3 more times. He stood semi-dressed while his shirt was cleaned of oil stains, collected by carrying her through the workshop. Yeah, Izu. Why do you live in these conditions? The room they stood in was only just bigger than the bathroom they'd stood in. It contained 1 double bed, 1 wardrobe, 1 set of drawers at the end of the bed, a small stove, fridge and freezer, a washing machine, a tumble dryer and a small balcony to air dry certain clothing. 2 wall-mounted lights gave the room a gentle yellow glow. Lighting and furniture aside, the room was a mess. What do you mean? I mean you literally have takeout boxes with bacteria not yet discovered. He picked up one of the offensive objects as example before throwing it into the already overflowing bin by the door to the workshop. There's a pizza box right next to but staining your bed. I don't really. May. I have to keep up appearances, plus my house is so far away it's just easier to live in this shit pit than do anything. Izuku paused millimeters from picking up another box of takeout. Pack some clothes and anything you want to keep. Conveniently her suitcase was just poking out from under her bed. As he pulled it she hurriedly tried stopping him. No, don't pull. Her bed frame fell apart in the middle. That. Izuku blinked, once, twice. Nope. He cried and walked over to her wardrobe to begin packing clothes for her. It appeared to only be the same overalls, 7 of it to be precise. Nope, Nua, May grab things you want to take and put them in a bag or something. The pinkette began following as he said, pulling a plastic bag from somewhere and filling it with personal items while he put more of her clothes into the case. The suitcase made a dull noise as he zipped it up and lifted it over his shoulder with ease. Come with me. Aizu what wa? He swept her up in his free arm in a one-armed princess carry. What the hell? You are not living in these conditions, I'm not letting you. And where else? With me. He lugged her case and began carrying her through the workshop. You are exhausting yourself and now I'm going to make sure you actually get some sleep. At mine you'll be able to drop the charade and rest, no one will tell a soul. Her breathing was soft against his chest. Can you unlock the door quickly? She reached out with one arm and unlocked the door before he managed to convince the door to open with his foot. As he walked down the halls he ran into no teachers and was able to make his way quietly along the pathway. May, you sit awake? Yeah, why? Go to sleep. Wah dash. I can see you're exhausted. Hell, I think our sexcapade took the last of your energy up. A tired arm looped around his shoulders. No, it was amazing. She gently lifted herself for a kiss. I wasn't saying it as I'm saying it exhausted you. He pecked her temple. Go on, just close your eyes for 30 seconds, we'll get to mine before you know it. She was already snoring into his chest. Atta girl. Chuckling quietly, he carried the sleeping woman down through the late afternoon sun. He gently laid May down by the door with her suitcase. His door was never left ajar, even when the girls were home alone. The second alarm bell was ironically the lack of noise from the inside. Creeping through his own apartment felt wrong, but nevertheless he moved briefly into the kitchen and grabbed a large knife, paused, and grabbed a second for safety. There was no noise until, so we got the whole lot of ladies from 1A? That's a nice welcome gift, a voice chuckled. Izuku tightened his grip and tried to calm his boiling blood. It didn't work. The voice originated from the bedroom, so that was his destination. Unflinching, he stepped into the room and saw the women all huddled on the bed between two figures, the one of the left seemingly taller than him, the other his size. The taller seemed male while the shorter seemed female. The woman waved a knife and several syringes while the man held blue flames in his hand. Izuku bit back his roar of pure rage, opting instead to creep until he was between the two just behind them. Toru saw his crouching figure and locked eyes with him before closing her eyes and almost crying. His fangs bared as he stood up. A blade rested on each person's throat. You have exactly 2 FNG seconds, before I slit both of your throats, to explain why you are threatening my woman. 1. Oh, so we have effing try hard, the man laughed arrogantly. 1. His eyes became slits. Ooh, trying to scare us? The man boasted. T-dash. Izuku, do not kill them. His father appeared on the screen. They are intruding into my house, threatening my women. I could not give 2 flying s right now, Dad. My anger is not going to let me wait another second. Both figures stiffened. Wait, Dad. The man wasn't arrogant anymore. In fact, to Izuku's satisfaction, the man seemed quiet afraid. You mean this green bean? Is my son and will not hesitate in taking off your head if you show any more disrespect. Ladies, you have my deepest apologies. I was not expecting either of them to be so uncivilized. Not explaining why I shouldn't kill them. His arms tensed, the blades inching closer to the strangers' throats. I recruited them to join our cause. His dad nodded. However, it still depends on your decision. Izuku laughed dryly. And upon seeing that this is how they behaved, the sentence was left hanging. Let me put this as a way you understand, the younger Greenette villain growled. You really just effed up. Both figures gulped. The blades pulled away for a second before thudding into the floor between each of their feet. Name, Quirk, then I want you gone. Dobby, cremation, I'm out of here. The man turned around and fled, not even bothering to pause at the sight of May getting to her feet and carrying her suitcase into the apartment. Toga, transform, are you sure I can't stay? Out now, he made a point to pick up both knives. Before I transform you into a corpse? Okay, meanie, she pouted and turned to walk away, again ignoring May hauling her belongings into the room. Izu, what was guys? Hatsume. The women all chorused. May, welcome to the league. He grinned. Like I said, it contains every girl in Class 1A. Her eyes flicked between him and the pile of beautiful women on the bed. Guys, May Hatsume, I have a feeling you haven't met the real her yet? A technician? His dad raised an eyebrow. More than that, a hand moved around her waist. Best gear, mind and hands in the business. We'd be foolish to see if she wanted to join us. Luckily she did. Is it all right if we're all over this weekend for dinner? Of course, you and the ladies are always welcome. We may have to extend the table, but that'll be dealt with at the time. Was there anything else you needed? No thanks. Dad. I shall be going then. Enjoy your evening, Izuku. You too, Dad. The screen turned off. The greenette made sure to unplug it and make sure everything was off this time. Anyway, ladies, this is May Hatsume. She's in UA due to spite and wanting to prove that she can be a successful inventor. She's joining our cause and league for the same reasons. Think we can keep that secret? They all nodded. Wonderful, May, you okay? Yeah, I don't really know you all that well. He turned her to face him and picked her up by her waist. Izu, we're in front of people. Her squeal of excitement betrayed her words. The greenette just smiled as he kissed her. Well, why don't we change that? The rest separated behind her as Izuku threw her across the room onto the bed. Landing with a soft thump, May was overcome with a feeling of excitement. As Izuku kissed her, he pulled her body to the edge of the bed, leaving her legs dangling. The bed began to take more weight as the women climbed back on it. Clearly they knew what was coming as they were all stripped, rejoining the couple on the bed. Kyoka lifted her hands and stretched them up past her head, trapping her wrists together before sitting herself on May's hands. Almost on instinct, her fingers began teasing the purplet. Momo and Achiko began teasing her clothes off. Izuku encouraged her jeans off as he continued to kiss her. That was, until his head was pushed away from Mina to push her head upside down over May's and begin kissing her. Muffled miming from behind her suggested Kyoka's favored fate between the Pinkette's legs. Momo and Achiko successfully removed teased May's shirt off and began assaulting her Biarithis, paying special attention to her already hard nipples. A hand disappeared between each of their thighs. Izuku watched with growing arousal as Tsuyu gently pulled Mina's head away to kiss her and position herself over May's face. Without a single word, the Zoom Quirk user attacked the frog girl's folds hungrily. Izuku gently wrapped her legs around his waist as he pushed into May again, causing her to pause for a solitary into Tsuyu. Toru materialized in front of Izuku. The blonde swung herself upside down, wrapping her legs around Izuku's head, giving him full access to her core. So he began intruding with his tongue. One hand moved from May's waist to Toru's, letting him push deeper. As he pulled out from a move, Toru's tongue began teasing the place he and May connected, getting emness from the pair. His hands were guided from Toru and May by a pair on each wrist. A small tubular object was placed in each hand and guided lower. Trying to peek over Toru, he could just about make out Momo and Achiko guiding his hands, now holding very large dark green DLDS to their own entrances. He dropped the objects, instead opting to use his middle and index fingers instead. Both gazed at him for a moment as he entered them before they pushed down to get his fingers to the lowest knuckle and rolling over to attack May's chest again. The silence from moments ago was invaded now by a chorus of "ahs." Pumping his arms and hips in tandem, he kept attacking Toru's core with his tongue, getting the woman to as she liked both May's folds and Izuku's stiff member. May was first to reach orgasm, with all the sensations simply overwhelming her. Coming. She aimed into Tsuyu. As she clamped down on him, Izuku felt his first orgasm of the evening burst, slowly filling the tormented woman in front of him. Each of them reached their own orgasm. However, they were far from finished. He pulled away. Toru was immediately taking his member into her mouth, hardening him again almost instantly. The rest all moved off the inventor to let her rest, letting her lay on the side of the bed. My turn. Tsuyu slid down to take Mei's place, her strong legs even wrapping around Izuku while Toru still had her mouth full with him. The blonde lifted her head to repeat her tasting as Izuku filled the frog girl with one powerful move, his rhythm unbroken as his arms kept pumping into the women either side of Tsuyu, now attacking her nipples while Mina almost sat on her face, dragging the laid woman's arms up to offer to Kyoka, who actually sat on them eagerly. Their M's were now joined by Mei's panting, which gave them all more drive apparently. Izuku twisted his tongue around Toru's core, her tensing legs telling him he'd hit the right spot. Tsuyu was barely able to before her tongue began disappearing into Mina's lips. The pink girl had her back to Izuku, but he could tell her eyes were rolling up as she leant forwards to kiss Kyoka. So, fool, Mina as Tsuyu's tongue just kept moving. Almost as much as Izuku's D-dash. Momo and Achiko both reached forwards with a hand onto the pinkette's shoulders and pushed her closer to Tsuyu's face. Ooh, there it is. Izuku powered through again as his hips moved like a jackhammer, his arms in the same rhythm. They each let out M's louder as orgasms approached. Tsuyu's legs clenched around his waist, hard, driving him entirely into the clamping core of Tsuyu. His second orgasm hit like a truck as he felt himself come again. Once again as he fell out, Toru took the member into her mouth, cleaning and hardening it. Tsuyu was gently rolled to the other side of the bed, allowing Momo to push his arm away and roll into the center. Now me, she pulled Mina completely onto her face, greedily lapping up the orgasm before attacking her folds in earnest. Kyoka immediately took her hands to sit on them again as Ochako continued her assault on Bearthus, except this time joined by a flexible Toru, who had released Izuku ready to move completely into Momo. Ooh, if dash, the onyx-haired woman as the sensations assaulted her. None of you stop, please, a plea they were all too happy to comply with. Izuku doubled down with his rhythm, hips meeting with louder, more powerful smacks than before. His now free hand gave Momo a spank before lifting and doing the same to Toru, getting squeaks from both girls. It rested on Momo's waist as his power increased again. Show much? Her words began slurring as he could only assume her eyes had rolled upwards. Show, go OD. Her body began spasming. Oh, Her legs tensed around him as she clamped down around his D-dash. The group's third orgasm rocked them all, and it was Momo's turn to start panting, rolling over to cuddle with the still recovering Mei. Next was Kyoka, almost immediately sliding into place, dragging Mina onto her. I don't want to walk tomorrow, was all she said before she began to assault on Mina's already sensitive pages. Achiko and Toru began working on her nipples as well as Izuku just grinned into Toru and ramped up his moves. So much so that Kyoka began bouncing up the bed. Her hands clawed for any purchase until he grabbed her wrists and pulled her arms straight down the center of her body. Toru and Achiko twisted in ways to let the arms pass, barely pausing from their assault to the punk girl's nipples. She tried to squirm in pleasure overload, but to no avail. Mina wiggled ever so slightly as her juices began running down Kyoka's chin. Izuku picked up his power and pace, driving his D into Kyoka's deepest parts. His arm never stopped its piston movement into Achiko as the woman ummed with a mouthful of Kyoka's B. The vibration began causing Kyoka a yo shudder. Izuku pulled his tongue from Toru to grunt. Grab her, Jax, before assaulting her core once again. Toru and Achiko must have listened as the woman's body tensed suddenly and Izuku felt a powerful heartbeat around his D-dash. Kyoka struggled against her orgasm for as long as possible, wanting to enjoy the overwhelming pleasure forever. Until it crashed onto her like a stone. The sudden clamp again brought Izuku to his own orgasm, with the remainder of the group each reaching their own fourth. Kyoka gently shuffled aside to hold Tsuyu as they both tried catching their breath. Ochako was pulled into place by Mina as Izuku gripped her wrists in a similar way he'd grabbed Kyoka. Give it all to me. She looked up into his eyes before proceeding to enjoy thirds of Mina's PP, already spilling juices over her lower face. The pinkette in question now faced Izuku and laid down along Achiko's body, taking Toru's original role of tasting where Izuku's D and Ochako's PP met. Toru remained with her legs around Izuku's head and began sking Ochiko's BRST while teasing the other NPL with her hand. Pulling on her arms, Izuku made sure she stayed exactly still while he forced their hips to meet. Ochiko returned this by squeezing down so hard he almost came a fifth time. But it wasn't quite time yet. This, is better, than any, DLD. Ochiko spoke between slurps and ms. Her legs tensed and pushed him as far as he could go. He stood still for a second before dragging himself backwards and pushing much more slowly than last time. Ochiko's walls scraped along his D-dash, tightening as he pushed. Mina closed her eyes and scrunched the sheets in her hands. Clearly Ochiko was either screaming or miming, and it was reverberating through her. All four of them once again emmed out in orgasm as Mina almost fell on top of Ochako, who then was just aware enough to cuddle with Momo and Mei in her post-orgasmic haze. Mina rolled herself and smiled coyly to him. "Break my like one of your villain girls." In a show of incredible flexibility, Toru had taken Izuku back into her mouth and lowered her hips from his face to Mina's. The pink girl happily grabbed hold of the thighs either side of her head as Toru rolled over and lifted herself up. His pee-pee hit Mina's entrance with a wet slap before he pulled back just enough to start pushing in. Toru grabbed his chin and pulled him into a deep kiss. His slow progress into Mina was clearly torturing her as her ends seemed to travel from Toru's core to her tongue. Once he felt her hips against his, he reached out for her ankles and lifted them up to his shoulders. The angle changed slightly and he felt Mina tighten on him because of it. Taking it as the sign of a weak spot, Izuku began moving with all his might. "Hey, touched, like that?" she pleaded as Izuku continued kissing Toru. All three of them had more stamina than the rest combined. This was made even more apparent when Toru had to force herself away from Izuku's lips and make her way down his body, peppering it with hickeys and kisses. He grunted and groaned at both sensations until Toru was back down to her first position, her tongue lapping over Izuku's PP and Mina's labia as he moved continuously. Eventually she just held her mouth open above it and Izuku got the message loud and clear. Pulling completely out of Mina, he sheathed himself down Toru's throat. He then pulled back out and moved fully into Mina again. Repeating this, Izuku kept switching between Toru's waiting mouth and Mina's dripping pages. Soon several trails of fluids connected both holes. He soon began feeling the pressure of another orgasm build, speeding up his pace. Reaching down with one arm, he grabbed Toru's chin and lifted her back up to kiss him as he came a sixth time, his hips against Mina's as his member throbbed. Toru practically melted into his kiss as her own orgasm overtook her, and Mina was subject to one so powerful her legs began shaking. Tiredly, she moved herself to cuddle with Kyoka and Tsuyu. It was just Toru and Izuku left as she went back down and liked his member. "It tastes of everyone." Her tongue teased the tip as his hand rested on the back of her head. It didn't take long for her to take the whole thing down her throat though, his ball resting against her chin. His grip tightened around her hair as he began moving. Her eyes almost immediately rolled up into her head as her hands disappeared underneath her. His seventh orgasm came much faster as he soon ended up shooting ropes straight into her throat. The blonde pulled away and looked up to him, her mouth open. It was almost completely full of his cum. She smiled and swirled her tongue almost hypnotically before closing her mouth and making a show of swallowing before revealing it had all gone. The display alone reset Izuku entirely. Grabbing Toru by the waist, he picked her up and draped a blanket over the rest of the girls before leaving the room and closing the door behind him. He and Toru were going to have a long night. A very long, pleasure-ridden night.